Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. Today's episode, we're doing an Ask Me Anything. I chose not to do a topic today. I chose to let you guys decide the topic today. Please do me a favor, like always, give me a thumbs up. Let me know the sound is loud and clear. Hello, everybody. Raul Duke. Hello. Salam alaikum, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that the audio is perfect. Fantastic, guys. My button pushing skills getting better and better. It took many years, but finally I'm getting it on the first try nowadays. And guys, I decided today not to choose a topic, to do a original AMA, just like the old days. Ask me anything. Usually I have a topic. I wanted to do Jerry versus Glover, but I said, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait a little bit and just do an old school AMA. Ask me anything and have a little bit of fun. The holiday season is upon us, guys. Maybe for some of you it's the most exciting time of the year. For some of you it's the most depressing time of the year. For me, it's quite dark outside. That's a little bit, it gets me a little bit, you wake up, it's dark, you get ready to go to practice at night. It's really dark, like crazy dark. At here in Canada, in Quebec, it's getting dark like at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, it's getting dark. 5 o'clock, it's dark. You get to practice, it's pitch dark outside. It's just less sunshine, less heat, more cold, tough time of the year, guys. And that's why they have that very special holiday in December. December, Christmas used to be January 1st, believe it or not. And then they moved it to December 25th. Why? Because December 25th is usually the darkest day of the year. Usually, not always. Sometimes it's the 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, around that time. And of course, they noticed that they were having a lot of suicides. They were having a lot of people killing themselves, etc. Always during this time of the year when it's winter and dark and people are cold and depressed and they have less to live off of. So what did they do? They said, hey, let's move our favorite holiday. Let's move it over to December. If we move it over to December, we'll cheer people up. We'll cheer people, get them happy to look forward to give a gift to somebody, to receive a gift, to have family over, etc. Guys, this is also done by design. It's a holiday that's been shifted around and it's been made with lights and all these things and all these festivities. Why? To cheer you up in the most depressing time of the year. Now, in my opinion, it doesn't have to be depressing, but not seeing the sun, for those of you who don't live in a northern country, it's psychologically heavy and everybody complains about it every year, all the time. And, for me, it doesn't matter what season, if it's winter, summer, I enjoy all the seasons, but my favorite season is definitely a summertime. Summertime is something special. However, you enjoy summertime so much more after a winter. Spring, summer, going from winter to spring is very special. And then from spring to summer is just something so very special. For countries who are always hot. Every day is just hot. It's a bit difficult to appreciate. Okay, guys, we have our first super chat. I think it's just a donation from Brian McDougall. Brian McDougall, ladies and gentlemen, is a gentleman and a scholar. He's a gentleman and a scholar. Drop $20 just like that. Didn't even ask a question. Thank you very much appreciate it. How's Carnivore going, boss? It's going pretty good, guys. I talked about it at length the last podcast, so do check that out. It's going really well. I'm still on it, okay, but I'm not. Guys, there's many different types of carnivore. The carnivore I was doing was meat and fruit. Now I've shifted to meat and potato. That's working much better for me. So I have meat, potato. I have potato for breakfast and eggs, and then steak and potato for lunch, and then I don't need anything, guys. This is my dinner. See, this is my dinner. I'm trimming down now. I'm trying to get a little bit leaner, and once I get leaner, I'll start having dinners again. But for now, I'm doing intermittent fasting with mostly just breakfast and lunch. Okay, guys, what else we got here? Hey, Coach, for us, will there be a discount on Juju Club for Black Friday? That's from Mark D. Yes, I believe there will. There's a discount right now. Let me pop it up for you guys right now. Hold on 1 second. Here's going to take me 1 second. Where is that discount? Oh, here it is. Here you go, guys. Check out promo code AB15. AB15. Get $15 off, guys, on anything you want. A bunch of new videos coming out shortly. I did a video on kicking recently, and I did a video on running. Really important video that's going to get you guys in shape. That should be out in a couple of weeks. What do you think about Indian fighters? That's from Ajax Op. Well, I've known a lot of good Indian wrestlers. They have very very good wrestling. Very very different style than U.S. wrestling, but very very good wrestlers. In terms of martial arts, I'm not sure what their biggest martial art is. I mean, I don't know if they're very big into kickboxing and maybe there's a striking art they're really involved with, but I know for a fact they're really good wrestlers. I've wrestled with a few good Indian wrestlers myself. Opinion on Mark Cerrone. That's from Salem. Salem is a very strange thing. Mark Cerrone is a fellow black belt from the Henzo Gracie Academy, a longtime friend. I haven't trained with him in a few years now, but a good friend. We've trained together many, many years for a long, long time, and we're very good friends. This is from Joe. I too have been doing a modified carnivore diet. Steak, flaming hot Cheetos, Hershey's chocolate bars, and mint ice cream for all 3 meals per day. Need to get my carbs in for training. That's from Joe. Okay, Joe having a little fun, Joe. Listen, it's modified carnivore. I'll tell you why it's modified. Just eating steak is so boring. Like, I've been doing my research on carnivore, and I've found people that just eat meat. Guys, it's insane. It's just eating meat. And my favorite food is steak, but I still can't just eat steak. Guys, I eat steak, then I'm like, something's wrong. Like, I'm not used. And of course they say, look, tough it out. Guys, let me tell you something really important, okay? Even what's his name? Liver King eats potatoes. Okay? Now, I did a interview with the carnivore MD, Paul Saladino, and he even told me on the podcast, he knows him very, very well. And he said, look, the Liver King eats potatoes every day. So even the top carnivore guys are not pure carnivore. Carnivore just means that you get most of your calories. And again, guys, this is a working definition I'm giving you, okay? I think you're carnivore, in my definition of carnivore, because there's no book with a definition of carnivore. There's no great Pumbaa that gives us a definition, okay? Is if you get most of your calories from flesh food, eggs, chicken, fish, red meat, whatever flesh food you eat from. If the majority of your calories are coming from those kind of foods, I would consider you, in my definition, I would consider you carnivore, okay? Now, I used to get most of my calories from plants. Now I'm getting most of my calories from meats, eggs, red meat, fish, and a smaller amount of calories from carbs. Now, if you're telling me you're eating mint ice cream and this and that, no, you're not carnivore because you're getting most of your calories from carbohydrates and not flesh foods. Okay, now some people go pure carnivore. They just eat meat. To me, that's really like, I don't want to say it's unattainable. Like, if I really wanted to do it, I could do it, but it's just not a way to live. For me, it's just not something I'm interested in. Coach, what are some of your all-time favorite MMA fights to watch? That's from Jordan Shakur. Wow, that's such a great question. Oh, man, I have so many favorite fights. My God, I have so many favorite fights. I'm going to exclude all the fighters I've trained, okay, because that wouldn't be fair. Okay, I'm going to exclude because so many of those, I would have to pick every single guy I've ever trained. But my favorite fights, some guys I haven't trained, okay, because then I could be a little bit more objective. There's one fight where Sakuraba, I was there, K1 Heroes. Okay, and like Sakuraba was a big influence on me. Like, I watched him growing up. I was a blue belt when he was a superstar, and of course I was, studying him and watching him, and of course he fought so many Gracies, and I trained with the Gracies, and there's such history there. But he was such a superstar in Japan. It's kind of hard to explain. The Japanese had a very special love for Sakuraba. Very, very special love. Like, he just could do no wrong. Okay, and he has a wild and crazy life, of course. For those of you who might know a bit about his biography, he's a wild man. But there was one fight where he was fighting, I think it was a Lithuanian fellow. Like, this is way past his prime now. Way past his prime. He's fighting K1 Heroes, and they brought some guy we don't never heard of, and we don't know what to expect. And lo and behold, Sakuraba was getting a beating. Okay, it's really sad. I'm ringside now. Okay, I had Ivan Manjivar fighting that night, and then after Ivan's fight, we got to sit ringside. And Japan is such an experience because the fans watch the fight quietly. They don't say one word. And then when you do something good, they give you like a golf clap. Like they're so quiet. And if you do something amazing, then they'll cheer. But they're not like cursing at you, yelling, kick him in the. They're not hollering. They're not doing anything remotely mean, there's no disbehavior. There's no bad behavior whatsoever. They're so disciplined. They're so friendly. They're so positive. When you fight in the U.S., they boo you, they hiss, they curse you. Get up and knock him out. You're a bum. You know, they just insult. Like, you get a lot of insults. You get a lot of love, but you also get a lot of insults. In Japan, it's just love. It's just like love, admiration. Even if you didn't win, if you gave your best, we respect you. That's their attitude, okay? Now, in the U.S., it's kind of like, you won 8 fights in a row, but you lost your 9th, you suck. You're only as good as your last fight. We forgot about those 8 wins you got. Oh, you suck. You're a bum. You're a garbage. We never want to see you again. We're offended that you came here and lost. Now, again, I don't want to generalize. Okay, that's a bit of a generalization, but there is some of that. Okay, there is some of that. Not all the fans. Most fans are great around the world. They're great. Yes, they're very, friendly, kind. But there's some of that in the West. In Japan, you won't see any of that. They won't say a negative thing. It's very rare they say anything negative. Like, you'd have to be the most boring fighter ever. Okay, so I'm sitting there and I'm watching Sakuraba get a beating. Like, I'm telling you, he's getting a beating. I have to find this fight. It's such a great fight. He's literally under the ropes, getting punched through the ropes, and he's just getting, his head's bouncing off the canvas. And they would stop this fight, but because it's Sakuraba, the referee's like, hey, this is Sakuraba. I can't stop the fight. And lo and behold, Sakuraba is getting punched. And man, can that man take punishment. It's insane. He has a heart of a lion. Guys, make no mistake. Sakuraba has a heart of a lion. The Lithuanian guy punching him on the top of him. It's just beating the hell out of Sakuraba. And then Sakuraba starts to like twitch and starts to like zigzag and move, and he's just coming back to life. And it's like, what? This fight should be stopped. And he's just coming back and he starts fighting. And then he gets back to his feet, Sakuraba. And all of a sudden, Sakuraba's throwing his famous style punches. Like, he looks like a cat swatting at swatting at a bird. Like, he's just, the way he punches, it's just so bizarre. You know, he's so many things that he does is so bizarre. And now he's turning the table slowly. And the crowd, the Japanese crowd, is going insane. They're roaring now. Very unlike the Japanese. The Japanese will ooh, they'll ah, they'll give you a golf clap. They'll cheer at the end if there's a beautiful submission. But now the Japanese are riled up. Their hero was getting killed. They're all like, this is it. This is the end. Yet no. He comes out. He shows the heart of a lion. Comes back from the dead. Like a zombie walking. Starts beating on this Lithuanian guy. Knocks him down. Eventually subdues him. And gets him to an armbar and finishes the fight. Taps him out. Wins. Now, I got to hang out with that poor Lithuanian guy after. All of Japan was against this Lithuanian guy. And, he didn't speak a word of English, but, I consoled him a bit. He's a good guy, tough guy. He'll be back. Yeah, he's a very tough guy. No, they didn't bring him no slouch, even though I didn't know the guy at the time. The Japanese were, like, giving Sakuraba a standing ovation. It was something incredible to see. Then they shot the confetti cannons. It was just like a storybook. Like a total storybook. Sometimes I watch that fight just to like relive that moment. It's an incredible fight. I forget the Lithuanian guy's name. I don't even know if he was Lithuanian. Forgive me if I'm getting that wrong, but please, guys, put his name in the chat. Somebody who knows which fight I'm talking about. It was in K1 Heroes. Look it up. Put it in the chat room. Let everybody watch it. One of my favorite fights ever. Why? Because I was there, and I've been to Japan. At that time, that was like my 4th trip to Japan. I've gotten to know the Japanese. The Japanese don't behave like this. Is out of character. It's out of character for them to jump up and down and just to lose it a little, lose control. And it was a very special thing to see, because the Japanese, they're usually very shy, very courteous, very, how do you say, they're humble, they're quiet, they're disciplined, they're very disciplined. They don't show a lot of emotion. Okay, guys, I got a bunch of super chats that came in. Tonight at practice, I landed an arm triangle from the back take transition that I learned from one of your videos. I get this up often every time I say, Coach Zahabi taught me that. That's from Spartacus. TJ Spartacus, you are the man. Man, I love to hear that. Guys, I do this maneuver you're talking about all the time as well. I think you're talking about back control freak. Or you're talking about chokes made simple, because I kind of showed the same move in both videos. It overlaps a little. I do this maneuver all the time. I hit it tonight, actually. I did a duck under and got into the back. It's kind of like a katakatami rear naked choke. I'm going to show it again in future videos. It's so, there's so many ways to put it on. I love this move. You're not rear naked choke. You're not katakatami. You're not arm triangle. You're like kind of in between. It's a beautiful, beautiful maneuver. TJ Spartacus, I love hearing that, man. Very happy for you. Thank you for that super chat. Justin Gentapaman, new member. Another gentleman in Scholar joining the ranks. Thank you and welcome. We got another one here. For us, how do you prevent guys from turning back to turtle when trying to finish an anaconda choke? Look, I'll tell you a little secret about anaconda choke. Okay, listen carefully. If I see this mistake all the time, guys, I see black belts do this mistake all the time. It's such an important little detail. Okay, and I go over it on Chokes Made Simple. Guys, I'll give you a little detail on anaconda chokes. Okay, like if you have an anaconda choke like this, hold on a second. Let me get organized here. If you got it like this, okay. I don't believe in these kind of anaconda chokes. I think they can work, but if you make them work, it's a lot of muscle. Okay, let me just. You can't have your hand on your bicep. You need your tricep. You need to roll that tricep. You need to put your hand on your tricep and then put on the anaconda choke. Look what happened. My wrist now penetrated all the way through. If I'm wrist deep, like I call it, now the triangle is on tight and there's no bleeding. Okay, if your hand is here, you're bleeding force. But you're relying on the strength of your hand to choke the guy out. If your hand flexes, your wrist flexes, you're bleeding power. That's why you're squeezing and you're gonna burn. You're gonna burn your muscles out. Okay. When I put an anaconda choke on, I grab my tricep, and then I put my anaconda choke on like this. Now you'll see I'm wrist deep. If I'm wrist deep, now that's a bone inside the crook of my elbow. If you get wrist deep, there are other elements to making the anaconda choke work. For sure, you have to bridge. A lot of people just squeeze with their arm. That's totally wrong. You got to bridge. Okay, you got to involve your hips, guys. I would tell you. I'm gonna give you a working definition of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is the art. Jiu-jitsu is the art of using your legs and hips. Hands and arms are just assistant. If your move relies on hands and arms, it's wrong. The technique is by principle wrong, in my opinion. Okay. Learn to use your hips and legs. Even when I do an arm choke, I have to involve my legs. Even when I do a rear naked choke, I have to bridge and involve my legs. Like it's always about the legs and hips. The arms are just decorative. So people see a choke and they're like, oh, he choked him with his arm. Yeah, he choked him with his arm, but the force, the power was coming from the hips, the legs. Guys, I hate to say it again, but that's why you should squat when you do your leg exercises, knees behind your toes. Because when you do knees behind your toes, you're torquing from the hips. People who squat knees in front of toes, they torque from the knees. When I'm doing submission holds, I ain't using my knees. When I throw a punch, I'm not using my knees to torque. Guys, I'm saying the word torque, which is a mechanical statement, not twerk. I know you, I'm always faulting the TikTok generation. You guys think I don't want you guys twerking from your knees now. I want you not twerking from your hips either. I want you guys torquing. Okay, that's why we squat with our knees. That's one reason why we squat with our knees behind the toes. So you develop your hips. The more power you have in your hips, guys, the more you can get that anaconda squeeze. Okay. All right, guys, what else we got here? Check out Chokes Made Simple, and I go over it. Okay, so you'll learn anaconda and how to make sure a guy stays down. Muhammad Abdu, potatoes are overrated. I highly disagree, guys. Potatoes are one of the most nutritious foods you can get. It's the best carb, in my opinion. It's one of the best carbs you can have. Coach, are you familiar with Alexander Dugin and his philosophy? That's from AbQ. No, I'm not, but I'm going to check him out right now. Hopefully he's a real philosopher, not some TikTok personality. Let me check him out here. Search. Alexander Dugin, Russian political philosopher. See, that's why I probably I'm not big into politics, guys. Even though I do touch up on it a little bit, I'm not a big lover of politics. And strategist known for his views widely characterized as fascist. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. What is Alexander Dugin philosophy? Dugin philosophy owes much to traditional integralism and Nouvelle Droit movement, and as much it resonates with neo-paganism. See, this guy would be like my counterpart. I'm totally on the other spectrum of philosophy. So no, honestly, I'm not familiar with his philosophy at all. So, fortunately, I can't comment on him. Hey, Coach, I really enjoy your philosophy videos. Have you considered starting a podcast on philosophy series, throwaway account? I would love to do that. Like I said, maybe one day when I retire, but not right now. Guys, my days are so full. I got so many projects going. I'm doing so many things. It just would be insane for me now to start a philosophy channel. I do hope in the future to write books on philosophy and do videos. I'm sure I'll do a lot of stuff in philosophy, of course. But right now, I'm still formulating my philosophies, and it's going to take a few years before I can cement them and put them in writing. Coach, you missed my super chat. That's from Hani. Hani, let me see here. Hold on a second. Hani, okay. How does Volkanovski outstrike taller fighter like he does? That's from Hani. Hani, that's a really good question. That's a very good question. He's incredibly explosive. Don't forget, it's not just reach. Reach helps you with distance, but how fast can you go in and out? He's shorter, but faster than most, so it kind of evens him out, okay? The other thing is he has great shot selection. He has very good footwork. He has very powerful legs. So if you notice, he's a bit jittery on his legs, and that's very difficult to deal with, okay? He's super game to take a punch. He's very game to take a punch. And when he gives a punch, people feel it. So he can crowd you. Guys, he's a bit of he's a very technical fighter, but there is a blood and guts element to his style. He can take a shot, and man, he can give a shot. Okay, so he's not scared to crowd you. He's not scared to take you down. He's short, so he's good in getting in the legs. He has that dilemma. You don't know if he's going to shoot on you. You don't know if he's going to throw a big punch. And if you're wrong, if you guess wrong, you might end up flattened by a punch or taken down by a really powerful takedown. So he has a lot of surprise to his game. Okay, so he's explosive. He has very powerful legs that allow him to stay jittery on his feet, which is hard to read. When a guy's jittery like that, you don't know if he's going to explode forward at any moment. So you have to stay on high alert. When he hits hard. When he shoots hard. So you're always guessing. You're always trying to guess. And if you guess wrong, it's a big problem. So he's a very, very scary guy to deal with for sure. I missed your Islam versus Volk prediction. I'd love to hear your take. That's from David. David, I'm giving you guys my quick and dirty prediction. I'm going with Islam Makhachev, but I will do a full breakdown eventually as the fight gets closer. What do you think of Saudi versus Argentina match? That's from Yazid. Guys, I don't know much about soccer. All I know is there's a major controversy over that is being held in Qatar. And I heard that there's no alcohol now. There's no alcohol in the stadiums. And people are freaking out about it. I'm seeing headlines all over the place. But I believe there's no alcohol even in hold on a second. There's other countries also that don't do that. I think there's too many fights, I think, when they have alcohol. Let's see here. Yeah, so Qatar is banning alcohol sales. Of course, it's a Muslim country. There's going to be no alcohol sales. Yeah, fears of violence in Marseille. I know there's a lot of... Guys, what is it about soccer? Somebody let me know. What is it about that ball, that little bouncing ball, that drives people crazy? I went to a soccer match once. I was watching my friend's little brother play soccer. And a fight broke out in the stands. Now, I'm not a big soccer fan. Okay, I like to watch soccer. Don't get me wrong; it's a great sport. I'll watch the World Cup sometimes, and I enjoy it. I think it's a great sport. I like to play soccer, even though I'm the worst soccer player ever. I'm not a great soccer player whatsoever at all. But I love the sport. It's a great sport. However, soccer fans are crazy. I've seen videos of referees getting beat up, fights, and people just get crazy about this thing. The ball's bouncing around left and right, and people get hypnotized. I think the ball hypnotizes people. I was at this soccer match. I couldn't care less who scores on who. Whatever, people are cheering. They're happy. One guy's cheering too hard. The other team starts cheering a little harder. And the other guy, and then they're getting offended at each other's cheering. And all of a sudden, a whole fight breaks out. I'm like, dude, this is insane. Fight. I was literally stopping, families, moms, dads, brothers. I was just trying to separate these two people. They're literally trying to beat the hell out of each other because somebody scored a goal and the other guy was rude with his cheering. It's insane. I feel safer at an MMA show. I feel safer at an MMA show than I do at a soccer show. I don't know what it is about soccer fans, man. They get insanely violent. I've seen videos of soccer stadiums erupting in giant Royal Rumble fights, referees fighting, running from the fans, fans wanting to kill the referee. You don't see that in football. You don't see that. Okay, you see that once in a while. Once in a blue moon, you see it in football. Once in a while, you see it in basketball. But I feel like, I don't know, I might be wrong about this statistically, but I feel that soccer fans, man, they're ready to throw down immediately. Okay, what else we got here? I got a bunch of super chats coming in. For us, I enjoyed your chat with Saroor. As I'm a former atheist, I'm turning back to God due to ills of extreme liberalism. What would your arguments be for a former atheist seeking his fitra in God? That's from Justin Gentapaman. Excuse me if I... Gentapanan. Forgive me if I didn't get that right. Former atheist, now looking for his fitra. Guys, what's fitra? Fitra is the natural religion you're born with. That's what... Islam, the whole point of Islam is to bring us back to our natural religion. Okay, so of course that's also Judaism, Christianity. We have critiques of Christianity. Some say yes, some say no. Christianity, if you go by the author of the gospel, the New Testament, Paul, he says no, it has to do with death and resurrection. So they kind of like introduce a new idea that for us is like foreign. Okay, we consider it to be foreign. We consider it to be like an infiltration. Like it's not Abrahamic. It came from the Greeks. It came from the Romans, and heavy influence from the Romans. This is it's innovation. Okay, so our friend here is saying he's a former atheist and he's leaving atheism because of the ills of liberalism. Now, what are the ills of liberalism, guys? I don't want to start a war on this channel, okay? I try not to say anything inflammatory, but a lot of people are going to tell you, look, like for instance, they want drag shows in story time. They want to go in schools and sit the kids around and tell them a man dressed as a woman is going to tell them a story. Now, some people get super offended by this, and some people don't care. Some people are like, it's okay, they're human and we don't care. What else is a major problem? Okay, a lot of times, if you look at Qatar, you're not allowed homosexuality. They don't want this kind of thing. Like, why is it good? Why is it bad? Should it be good? Should it be bad? Should it be allowed? Should it not be allowed? This is the huge topic, obviously. Like, what are their extreme liberal values? Some people believe abortion is really bad. Oh, no, that's really bad. Almost, the U.S. was almost at 1 million abortions a year. Then the numbers dipped, and now, of course, there's a controversy. Some states are forbidding it. Guys, these are super inflammatory products. Not products, super inflammatory subjects. Okay, now I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to give you guys my spiel. Okay, liberalism starts with John Locke mostly. Okay, Voltaire, John Locke. These are philosophers, guys. Okay, so I'm very familiar with their writings. I'm very familiar with their thoughts, their thinking. Liberalism mostly says, okay, the original liberalism says, you're as free as you want to be without hurting anybody else. Okay, this is what John Locke would tell you. Look, do what you want in life. Be as free as you want. As soon as you start affecting somebody else's life negatively, that's the end of your freedom. Okay, so that's in a nutshell liberalism. Go out in the world and be who you want to be. You want to be gay, be gay. You want to be a trans, be trans. You want to be you want to abort something, go ahead. Okay, that actually John Locke might have a problem with that actually, because John Locke will probably tell you, yeah, your body, your choice, but that's another human body within you. Okay, so he would probably say. He would have a different topic on abortion. But let's put abortion on the side for now. Let's talk about liberalism. The nutshell of liberalism. What is liberalism? John Locke would tell you, look, live as free as you can. Speak as free as you can. Have free speech. As long as it doesn't bring harm to anybody else. So, even the most astute liberal speech enthusiast, he even wants to limit it. Okay, there are very few absolutists. They're going to say, no, I want absolute freedom of speech. Absolute. All you got to say is, okay, are we allowed the Holocaust? Are these guys who are claiming the Holocaust is a big scam, are you going to give them freedom of speech? Then they're going to go quiet. They're going to be like, oh, okay, let's limit them. Let's limit them because they're propagating something that's going to hurt a lot of people. Okay, so even the most absolute libertarians, if we tell them, okay, if we say something extreme, now guys, these are extreme arguments. They'll say, okay, what about having sex with an animal? Is that allowed? Ooh, even the extreme libertarian is going to think twice. What about brother and daughter? Father and daughter. If they both are willing, they're not harming anybody. They can wear prophylactic. They could. Even the most extreme liberal libertarian is going to cringe. He's going to he's going to think twice. Okay, so everybody has some limit. Everybody. There are very few extremists who are like, no, 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 absolute 100% liberty. Okay. We have to draw a line somewhere. Even the most astute right-winged libertarians are going to be like, hey, there has to be a line somewhere. Okay. Now we have to decide, where do we draw the line? Well, that's the huge debate. And it becomes aesthetics. You see this as harmful, I don't see it as harmful. You see this as good, I don't see it as good. We start debating what is good, what is right. Now, if you look at my friend here, he's asking about, he moved away from this because in liberalism, there's nobody that draws a line in the sand. It's all debate all the time. What's right, what's wrong. It changes with the times. What you think is right and wrong now, 100 years from now, they're going to curse you for it. Like, imagine, for instance, in the future, 100 years from now, 95% of the world population is vegan. 95%. Today, it's 5% of the world population, maybe like between 3 and 5. Okay. Imagine in the future, 95% of the world is vegan. Let's just say, okay. They're going to look back at us and say, oh, they were meat eaters. Destroy all their legacy. Whatever books they wrote, burn them. We don't want. If they're meat eaters, that was worse than slavery. They killed and butchered, and because eventually those vegans, imagine in the future, they put the life of a chicken equal to a life of a human being. There are people out there, absolutely, who say they equate the life of an animal is equal to that of a human being. Today, we don't see it that way. But imagine in the future, the paradigm shift. By the way, guys, this is known as the historian's fallacy. When you judge an era by your standards today, the people of the future, if they're vegan, they're going to be judging us and they're going to be committing the historian's fallacy, because today we don't see ourselves as that. We eat hamburgers and chicken and we don't even think about it. Them, in their culture, the way they were raised, they're seeing the world completely different. So my friend here is asking, Justin is asking, how do I get away from these shifting paradigms that never end? Okay, we're gonna talk about this because it gets a little bit more complicated. Liberalism, a lot more complicated. Imagine in the future, they look back on us and say, Coach Zahabi, he used to eat meat. I'll never take a word of advice from him. I'll I'll curse his name every time I see it. Every picture of mine on the wall, tear it down. The guys who inherit TriStar in the future, my great grandchildren are cursing me. They're like, he was a meat eater. I don't think that'll ever happen, guys. But imagine it did. Are they right? Then fast forward 200 years from now, where people start realizing, hey, this diet, there's a major flaw. The economic scene has changed. Plants foods are even more expensive now than meat. So we were going to return back to meats. And people eating meats now, they have an advantage somehow, some way. The environment shifted. And all of a sudden, being vegan is not cool anymore. It's not seen as healthier and whatnot. There's another shift. Constant subjectivity. Constant subjectivity. Now, science, the scientific method, is all about killing subjectivity. If you go in a scientific discipline, if they have the word science next to their discipline, whatever science may be, their whole job is to remove subjectivity. So for instance, if I have this glass of water and they're studying it, they're going to be like, look, the temperature, that's objective. The weight, that's objective. The circumference, the measurement of the that's objective. It's all objective. Is this, imagine it was orange juice. Is it delicious? That's subjective. You might find it delicious. I might find it delicious. Is Canadian water the best tasting water? I think it is. You don't think it is. That's subjective. We don't discuss aesthetics or tastes. We only look at the primary values, as they would say. How much does it weigh? How dense is this glass? How many ice cubes? These are all objective answers. There's no give. So when you talk to these physicists, these chemists, these biologists, they're not going to tell you something subjective. They're trained to eliminate subjectivity. But when you go in university and you study the soft sciences, man, it's all about subjectivity. It's all about how I see the world. Now, my friend here, he converted to theism. Is it theism, you said? Turning back to, he didn't state a religion. Okay, now if you look at the Abrahamic faiths, it's not about okay, go out there and be as happy as you can be without harming anybody else. It's not that about that at all. Okay, if you look at Qatar, We're talking about the World Cup now. All their rules is for the collective. You have to understand, like the Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all the rules are to protect the nuclear family, the collective. It's not, I'm going to do what makes me happy. I'm going to do what's best for our group. Our group is the most important, and it's before my personal needs. So I can't be a liberal. I can't be. I could be conservative. I could be in the middle between. I have liberal values as well, guys. I live in one of the most liberal countries in the world. But what I call liberal is not what somebody else calls liberal. They're going to think I'm conservative and I'm closed-minded. And what? No, I believe that I have also liberal values. I believe that Abrahamic faiths have liberal values. You're not condemned to live like a robot at all, not whatsoever. There is a pursuit of happiness, of course. But the happiness is a byproduct of a healthy society. So imagine this, okay? Imagine you're part of a group and everybody's out to get what is best for them. Everybody's working in a direction that's best for them. I'm going this way, I'm pursuing this. You're going that way, I'm pursuing that. There's no synergy. There's no groupthink. Groupthink can be good, it can be bad. There's no community. The father, we call this in psychology, we call it parallel lives. So for instance, two people marry each other because it's convenient. They're living their lives parallel. They're not interdependent. I married you because it's convenient for me. Instead of going out and chasing a new woman every night, trying to get sex, I have sex in my bed ready. I have a fridge. Why? I don't want to go hunt and pick berries every day. No, I go to the grocery store. I'll pay a guy to pick these berries and I'll stick them in the fridge and I'll eat them when I want. It's all convenience. Everything is convenience in the liberal mind. Of course, they can love each other and etc. They can have a relationship. However, I'm pursuing my happiness. You contribute to my happiness. That's why you're here. Ultimately, there are many wise men that say this is a dead end. Okay, I'll give you one, Socrates. Socrates in the Book of Republic tells us an interesting tale. Actually, it's a phenomenal dialogue, but I'll put it in a nutshell. They talk about this Greek fable, okay, where this Greek man finds a ring, and when he turns the ring, he becomes invisible. Okay, I know this sounds like a bit of a weird story. Stick with me, I'm going somewhere. Now, when he turns invisible, what does he do? He kills his enemies, sleeps with his enemies' wives. He lives all the pleasures he wants. The man's invisible. Nobody could touch him. He could steal, lie, cheat. He could manipulate the world to his likings. Socrates asks, is that right? And some of his interlocutors, the people he's having a conversation with, tell him, yes. You should get away with what you can. If you don't get caught, it's not cheating. If you don't get caught, it's not wrong. And Socrates goes on to tell them, no, that's a really bad way to think. It is wrong. You shouldn't kill your enemies. You shouldn't sleep with their wives. You shouldn't lie, cheat, steal. You should try to make peace with your enemies. And if you can't, then okay, Socrates will tell you, fight them. But he says, look, you have to cultivate virtues. And the guys are saying, no, look, he'll be richer. He'll have more women. He'll pass down his seed more. He'll be more successful in worldly things. So Socrates objects and he says, no, ultimately speaking, he's going to crash. Why? Well, Socrates says this. Imagine I think like that. Okay, I'm the dirtiest rat. Every time you turn around, I steal from you. Every time I turn around, you steal from me. We have a culture of liars and thieves. Okay, now I'm not equating this with liberalism. Okay, I'm going to bring liberalism back in. Just letting you know, when we're divided as a people, we won't survive. That's the premise I'm trying to bring out here. Okay, I'm using Socrates as an example. It's not a good example in comparison to liberalism, because liberalism is not about lying, cheating, and stealing. Okay, it's not. I'm talking about Socrates' example. Okay, he's giving an extreme example to kind of like illustrate his point. He's saying, look, if I'm a liar and a cheater and a thief, and you're a liar and a cheater and a thief, eventually we're going to turn our guns on one another. And other civilizations that work together will outcompete us. That's Socrates' argument in a nutshell. And he's 100% right. We've all heard the words, united we stand, divided we fall. United we stand, divided we fall. Liberalism is telling you, look, go out in your own personal pursuit. So you have countries with very diverse people. They don't think alike. They don't believe in the same things. They're completely adverse to one another. And in a way, it's a very beautiful thing. Now, in Canada, we're known as a mosaic. Okay? A mosaic, for those of you who don't know, it's like, imagine you had little colored beads, and you use these little colored beads to make a beautiful picture. Let's say you drew the Mona Lisa, but you put little beads of a color. Instead of painting or drawing, you use like, sometimes they use little flat cubes or whatnot, and they build you a mosaic. Canada is like a mosaic. Why? Because you have people from all around the world. Different religions, different creeds, and it's a very beautiful thing. Now, what unites us? Oh, well, liberal values, yes. We want to come here. We want fair opportunity. We're going to follow the law. We have a republic, okay? We have a type of republic, meaning we follow Canadian law. We all agree to it. It's fine. Your religion is your own personal thing. Your race has no bearing on whether we hire you for a job or whatnot. We give equality to everybody. It's a beautiful thing, okay? However, within Canada, we have many groups, and some groups stick together, and some groups are more individualized. The liberal groups are more individual. The Abrahamic religions, the traditional Hindus, the people who come from more conservative lands, they're very united. They're extremely united. Guys, they're so united. Muslims, Christians not so much these days, to be honest with you. Especially here in this country that I live in. It's much more, let's say it's lost a lot of its grip. But the Jews, the Hindu community, the Sikh community, they're very tight-knit. And they're growing. Like when I grew up in Chamonix when I was a young man, there was a lot of Greeks. Now it's Arabs everywhere. Arabs. The Muslim population is quickly growing. It's incredible. They were the fastest growing people in the world. Muslims are the fastest growing people in the world. In the year 2070, 1 out of every 3 people in the world will be a Muslim. That's how fast we're reproducing. Because we say our lifestyle is not liberal values first. No, first it's the collective. You have to follow the law, be honest. And what's good for humanity? If you look at Qatar, what's Qatar doing? If you go to Qatar, if you go to FIFA Cup right now, if you go to the FIFA Cup and you meet a Qatari, a female woman from Qatar, and you sleep with her, you can do 7 years in jail. Think about that. If I go to the UAE and I sleep with 100 women, I won't do 1 day in jail. Of course, if it's consensual. But if you go in Qatar and you sleep with 1 woman and it's consensual, you go to jail for 7 years. Think about that for a second. Why would they do that? Well, the elders of the community are saying, look, foreigners are going to come. They're going to meet our women. They're going to tell a young girl, hey, I love you. I'm going to come back for you. I'm in love with you. I'm going to marry you. I'm going to bring you to my country. I'm going to give you this beautiful lifestyle. And then he sleeps with her and disappears. It's a very common thing that happens, right? We've all traveled a little bit, I imagine. Foreigners come. They visit. They want a quick adventure. They want to disappear, go back home to their wives. They go back home to their life. They never call that girl again, never see her again. Now that girl may be pregnant, maybe has an STD. She's like, where's this guy? When is this guy coming back? What happens? You may have ruined the Qatari family. That girl would have married a guy. She would have matured. She would have got older. She would have forgotten about this guy. She would have never, she would look back and regret this. So the elders feel like they have a responsibility over their youth. Don't come here and destroy. And they have signs everywhere. Respect our country. And I'll tell you guys something. Whenever I go to another country, I always respect the rules. Like, I've traveled so much that I respect different cultures. I've been in so many cultures. I don't judge them. Like, when I go to Japan, I behave like I respect Japanese rules and culture. When I go to the US, when I go to the UK, when I go to Europe, I respect their way of life. I don't go there and impose my way of life and tell them, hey, no, this is all wrong. You guys are But that's a bit what's happening now. The whole world is kind of criticizing, not the whole world, but a lot of the world is criticizing Qatar, when these criticisms can be really right turned back. Like, for instance, a lot of them are talking about labor laws. I totally agree with the labor laws. It's totally wrong to underpay somebody, etc. But that happens in the West as well. Like, when I was in university, I took a class, and the class was on capitalism, and they were talking to us about Nike. Guys, I took that class maybe 15 years ago, more. And I still, since then, haven't bought Nike. How much I learned about Nike, what they did to the Haitian communities, what they did to the foreigners. They basically, according to this class, my teacher says, basically Nike went and bought up all the farmlands in Haiti. Haiti, the Haitians used to have their own farmland. Every Haitian almost was a farmer. It was one of the major jobs people had. If you were a Haitian, it was likely you're a farmer back then. Nike comes in, buys up all the farmland. They want the farmers off the land. We own the land now. So a few farmers got rich. The majority of farmers that are kind of like working to pay off their debt, you know, they don't own the land, but they farm, so they get to keep some and give some to the top farmers. I don't know exactly how it works, but basically farming now became obsolete. You cannot farm here no more. We own the lands. A few Haitians get rich, a lot of Haitians become poor, and now the only job available to you is working in our Nike factories. They kind of pigeonholed the Haitian community. They did this overseas. I remember some statistics. They were telling us back then, this is a long time ago, they were saying that Michael Jordan gets paid more than every Nike employee ever. All combined, he gets paid more. Now, guys, I don't want to, like, I'm not against capitalism, okay? I'm more of a capitalist myself, but there are some things that I find are unethical. I believe in a type of conscious capitalism, okay? Like, we have to have some rules to capitalism. We can't have a straight up street fight. I remember Trump once upon a time was talking about bringing jobs back to America, and Hillary says to him, yeah, I bet that tie you're wearing was made in China. And he says, yeah, it was, because you let me. Politicians like Hillary Clinton, etc., they made laws that allowed corporations to go overseas, exploit the lower wages overseas to make products for cheap. That's capitalism. However, what does that do to the people back home? Makes them have less jobs. So then you have to get people with money to spend more. So you develop a culture in the US. You develop the culture in the US that it's all about buying. You don't need 10 pairs of shoes, but you can have 10 pairs of shoes. And we make it cool to have 10 pairs of shoes. We make it cool to have 4 or 5 jackets. You don't need 4 or 5 jackets, but it's cool. It becomes cultural. The rich buy more and more. They become collectors of things. So all that money that they saved, they pushed into marketing, and they made us consumers. That's why if you look at my lifestyle, I reject consumerism. Okay, I'm not an obsessed consumerist. I like to buy what I need and a few things that I like to have. You know, I have a few things that I enjoy, but I don't want to go overboard. Why? I think that's one of the most destructive type of lifestyles there is. For you to have 10, 20, 30 jackets, somebody out there has got to work 24 hours a day. Somebody out there is going through slave labor. Why? Because if the demand is not there, if the demand for 20 pairs of shoes, 10 jackets for all these individuals is not there, they won't have to compete so hard to get you the rock bottom prices with the top product. I don't blame the companies, guys. I don't blame the guy. Trump was right. He can't sell ties unless he competes on a level playing field. He'll lose to guys who have a better bottom line than him. I blame the politicians. I blame the politicians who allow these kind of rules, because essentially politicians get bought out ultimately by these companies. They sell out the lower generations, the future generations. America used to produce a lot of goods. They don't anymore. It's all overseas. Some people say it's good. Some people say it's bad. Not something I want to get into. But my friend Justin, you asked me a very important question. How do I reconnect with the fitra? Well, number one, start living for the community. If you want to get away from liberal values, and I'm not against liberal values, I think liberalism is good, but remember what we said, even if we are liberal, where do we draw the line? I'm a very different liberal than 99% of liberals. I think you should have the ability to decide yourself how you want to live. I think you should not impose your way of life on other people. But you should have the freedom to live the way you want to live. Okay, so in that sense, I'm a libertarian. However, I do believe that community comes first. If you ask me, Coach, what's more important to you, that you're happy or that your family's happy? I would say my family be happy. What's more important to you, your community be happy or you be happy? I would say I would choose my community. Ultimately speaking, it's ironic, but if you live for yourself, in my opinion, you're going to find misery. So you tried to make yourself happy. You said, hey, look, I'm going to go live for what makes me happy without harming anybody else. And then you go on this journey. You're going to find misery. If this is your paradigm, you're going to find nothing but misery. Because ultimately speaking, you're going to be surrounded by people, but you're going to feel left alone. I remember that one comedian, I forget his name. He committed suicide. He was a very rich comedian, very funny guy. The guy who did Doubtfire. What's that movie called? Miss Doubtfire. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm really bad with movie star names. What was his name, that gentleman? He did 1,000,001 movies. He did Peter Pan. He did 1,000. Robin Williams. Okay, forgive me, guys. Yes, very, very popular guy. I remember reading a quote from him saying, you could be surrounded by people and yet still feel all alone. I came across it in a book. I was like, that's interesting. But that's the critique. That's the critique we have about liberalism, is that ultimately you're going to find yourself alone. You're going to be surrounded by people, yeah, but you have no human connection. You have no human connection. Like, look at Islam for a moment. Okay, look at, like, everybody's seen the pictures of Muslims praying in unison. You have a brotherhood. You have an entire culture around this practice. And everybody around the world is doing it. It's incredible. You can go to any country, you're going to find a community. It's true with Christianity, with Judaism, with Hinduism, with Sikhism. They have already a very tight-knit community. And if you mess with this community, each one of us is going to come to your rescue. Like, if you look at, for instance, the history of the Jews, it's quite incredible. That's why when characters like Sam Harris knock the Torah, they knock the Bible, I'm like, dude, even if you don't believe, show some respect, because you wouldn't exist. Because he has Jewish blood. You wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this book. The Jews are still till this day very tightly knit. They're a very tight community. That's how they survived. Guys, the Jews were a speck of dust to the Romans. If you know ancient Jewish history, the Jews survived. Who was worse? The German or the Romans to the Jews? Believe me, the Romans were on par with the Germans. We just don't have video footage of it, but there were thousands and thousands of Jews alone crucified, hundreds of thousands crucified. Not forget just killed, but crucified over the years under Roman rule. They were tortured. Now maybe the numbers are not the same, but still the viciousness was there. How did they survive this? They're one of the most tightly knit groups in history. And I don't blame them. I praise them for it. I think it's a beautiful thing. But liberalism, you don't get that. Liberalism, you're taught from a young age. Go out there in the world and find your happiness. And people like my friend here eventually turn around and say, look, I'm not finding happiness in this method. Now, some people claim that they do. However, if you look at statistics, suicide and all that, it's the most liberal parties that suffer from this ailment. The most liberal. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to insult anybody. I respect everybody's way of life out there. However, if you're overly liberal, you might find a lack of connection with your fellow man. All right, guys, that was quite a tangent. Apologies if I ramble on too long. But what else we got here? I got a bunch of super chats. I want to make sure I didn't miss any. Injured my ribs and went to get x-rayed. Nothing broken, but still feels like my ribs are still out of place. It still hurts when I sneeze, cough, or in positions. Any suggestion? Thanks. That's from Andy. Andy, I'll tell you one thing. Rib injury is one of the most painful things. I'm happy that your rib is not broken. That's very dangerous. If you're broken, if you break a rib, guys, you can pierce your lung. It's very dangerous. I know people have done that. Super, super dangerous. I'm happy you don't have a break. It's probably cartilage and muscular. It's one of the most painful things. I highly recommend you get in the pool. Get in the pool if you can. Do a few laps. Swim deep into the pool. The compression of the water is going to help massage. It's going to help massage your muscles. When you swim, guys, your body's weightless, almost weightless. Okay, so it kind of lets go. It kind of resets. And when you swim deep under the water, try to find the pool with some depth. You're going to have a nice pressure around your musculature. It's going to help flush out a lot. It's going to help massage and compress some of those muscles. And when you come back up, it's going to decompress. That's going to help create blood flow. Now, another brilliant way to create blood flow, because ribs are not easy to create blood flow or not easy to massage, is hot-cold therapy. So Cold plunge, hot plunge, cold plunge, hot plunge. It's another way to unlock those muscles. A lot of it is probably damage to your cartilage and very, very tight muscles in your rib cage, but not very easy to mobilize. So I really recommend you use water. Swimming is very good. It'll get those muscles moving. Or hot and cold therapy if you can. You can even just do it in the shower. Turn on the cold water, turn on the hot water, turn on the cold water. You could even do it with a heating pad and ice. Heating pad, ice. You can do it that way. It's just not as effective. It's better to do the whole body if you can. It flushes out the system. When you're in the cold, the blood rushes to your heart to protect your heart. Then when you're in the warm, the blood rushes back to your extremities. So it flushes blood in and out. It makes a major difference. Instead of taking months to heal, you could take days or weeks. Okay, weeks or days, I should say. Alec Carolino. Stability is king. We value power over strength. But how strong do I need to be? How much should I be able to deadlift to keep myself safe while wrestling? That's from Alec. Alec, I'm going to tell you something. I wrote a PDF of Strong and Stable Knees. You guys are all getting it for free. Everybody who bought Strong and Stable Knees, you're getting the PDF. I answered that very question. My button pusher got sick. Guess I want to give a shout out to Noor. Noor, I hope you're getting better. He got sick. It was supposed to be out like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I mentioned it. Now I'm so pissed off that I mentioned it because now it's like late and people are writing me, hey, where is it? It's coming. Okay, I promise you guys, he's working on it. He had a health issue. I wrote it. He's polishing it up. He's making it look nice. And it's going to be released, okay? At no charge for anybody who bought Strong and Stable Knees. And I will be updating Strong and Stable program always. So if you bought it, have it for life. We'll let you know when there's updates. I'm constantly on the search to keep the body strong and stable. The best ways to keep the body strong and stable, I'm constantly on the search, okay? I recommend in the book, in the PDF, which you're going to read shortly, you're going to get it. I recommend you have to lift between 1.2 to 1.5 your body weight times your body weight. Okay, so if you weigh, let's do this now. Average person weighs 170 pounds times. So we're talking about the core lifts, guys. The core lifts is deadlift, squat. I would put clean and jerk in there, clean and jerk, and I would put snatch. But I don't want to put those two because they're very complicated lifts. I don't recommend you guys do them. But let's just do this real quick here. Let me see here. Let's say 170 times 1.3. Okay. So that's 221. If you're 170 pounds, that's the average male weight. Okay. And you could deadlift 221. I don't recommend you go much higher. Now I do recommend the book that you go up to 1.5. That's the high ceiling. It will be 255. Guys, that's not a crazy amount of weight. You train for 6 months. Easily, you'll do it. Easily. Okay. Why don't I want you to do more than that? Because it would take away from your jiu-jitsu, your wrestling. Guys, if you look at powerlifters, okay, powerlifters is a sport that they have 3 moves. Squat, bench, deadlift. The total of that, you squat, you bench, you deadlift, they add the number up. Whoever has the highest number wins. Those guys are constantly injured. They're the most injured athletes I've ever come across. Okay, after runners, they're the most injured athletes. Number 1 most injured athletes, runners. Number 2, powerlifters. Okay, powerlifters / Olympic lifters. They're super injured all the time. Okay, why? They're always flirting with too high numbers. Ask a powerlifter after his workout 2 days later to roll with you. He can't roll. They can barely move their body. Guys, ask a powerlifter to do a cartwheel. Okay, not many of them can. Their bodies only move in that one track. That's all they can do. They can't lift over their head. They can't jump. They can't sprint. They've done studies on powerlifters. Powerlifters had a lower vertical jump than the untrained group, a group that doesn't exercise. They took a group of people. Hey, we're looking for people who don't exercise. Do you volunteer? People volunteered. They took that group and they measured their high jump compared to powerlifters, and the powerlifters were lower. Why? Powerlifting is a very slow sport. You're moving like a tow truck. I also talk on the Strong and Stable. I talk about why we need to train like Ferraris and not tow trucks. When you do slow moving movements, you convert your musculature to slow type muscle, slow twitch muscle fibers. You lose your ability to do quick movements, such as jumping. So the average person who never deadlifts doesn't jump, doesn't practice jumping, doesn't do deadlift. But he didn't slow himself down with slow lifts. So his average speed is still normal. He jumps higher. So what I'm trying to say is powerlifters are below average in speed. Too much deadlifting, too much squatting will make you slow. Guys, there's so much evidence about this. I don't want to go on a rant. But this is the whole story of Mark Marinovich. He was a football coach who noticed that the guys with the biggest lifts in squat and bench and deadlift were the slowest on the field. He's like, hey, the more heavier you go, the slower you run. He was one of the first guys in the NFL to make that connection. That's why we do low impact plyometrics. If you look at the entire strong and stable system, we do some slow lifts, but only a certain amount. I still believe slow lifts are important as long as you do plyometrics and low impact plyometrics. Plyometrics will lead to injury. Low impact plyometrics will not. I've been doing low impact plyometrics for 20 years. I've never injured myself once. Okay. So in the system, I talk about why plyometrics are important. You can do slow lift as long as you couple them with plyometrics. This is a tried and true method. To make it simple, if you can squat or deadlift 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, maximum 1.5. I wouldn't even go there. I would stay 1.2, 1.3. That's enough, man. You have enough power. And I talk about why it's important to get that level. I talk about it in the book. If you don't have that much strength, there's no point in doing plyometrics. You need to develop strength and then plyometrics. So, guys, it's not that hard. And I explain after how to do your program. If you're below 1.5 or let's say 1.3 times your body weight, this is how you have to train every week. I make it crystal clear. I show a chart. Once you reach that level, you stop doing maximal strength. It's time to do plyometrics, endurance, strength. And then you check your strength levels every so often. Guys, I don't deadlift that often. I deadlift maybe, 10 times a year. I don't need it. I can deadlift 1.3% my body, 1.3 times my body weight. When I can't, if I get old, if I'm getting older and I start feeling, hey, my strength levels are going down, guess what? I'll start deadlifting again until my strength levels go back up. This is very important. If you don't do this, you will get injured. You need, guys, strength is safety. Power is safety. Strength and power are not the same. Endurance is safety. Speed is safety. And of course, stability is king. Okay. So the PDF is coming shortly, guys. Again, I'm so pissed that we have a delay, but it was really out of our hands. It's not going to happen again. In the future, I won't mention the PDF, and I'm writing more. I won't mention it till it's ready because I was sure it was a slam dunk going to be ready. So I mentioned it, and now I'm getting a bunch of emails, people asking, hey, where's it going to be? Guys, with doing this PDF, it's me trying to make you guys trying to be overkill. Like, I gave you the product. It's a really great product. I updated the product. Now, when you go on Juji Club, anytime you click on the link, it goes straight to that part of the video. It's all organized. And I'm just trying to give you guys extra with how to prioritize. And I made it super simple to understand. Like, really important training protocols. Made super simple. And I kept it super short, straight to the point. No stories about my life. No romance novel. No, it's straight to the point. Things I like, how I like it. I like things straight to the point. When I buy something or I want information, man, I hope the author is going straight to the point. I can't stand when they want to go on their life story and all that. It's just too much. It's mind-numbing. What else we got here, guys? Another super chat. Coach, how do we know other cryptocurrencies aren't a scam like that buffoon that bankrupted recently? Ajim, $150 billion gone. Guys, did you hear what I just said? FTX. 150 billion. That's insane. Guys, I didn't look into it. Okay, I'm big into crypto, but I'm not big into FTX. I know it's an exchange. I've never used FTX, thank God. Guys, I used to use Quadriga, the Canadian. Same thing happened in Canada. Some guy had Quadriga. I've even corresponded with the guy. I don't know if it was actually him or one of his employees, but I bought from Quadriga when it was quite new. I was buying from him. He's a Canadian guy. I was sending him money. I want to buy crypto. Don't ever leave your money on exchanges. Never. Never. The whole point of crypto is I can control my keys. I have control over my own money. Guys, I still believe it. I know crypto is going to keep crashing. I think Bitcoin is going to go under 11K. It's going to go 12K, 11. It's going to touch a little bit under 11K. It's going to hit 10 and people are going to start jumping and buying in again. Guys, I think Bitcoin is going to go to $1 million. I still say it. Mark my words. 10 years from now, we're going to be talking and be like, hey, remember that podcast 10 years ago? I told you it was going to go to $1 million. Why? I'll tell you why. Because people need the banks to have competition. They need it. They need it, man. Little countries with no hope of getting American dollars in their country are going to use crypto. It's going to happen in the future. I'm long into crypto, guys. If you're trying to flip crypto and make money in a year or two, I think that's totally crazy. Take money you want to put away for 10 years from now when you want it to go 20x, 30x, 40x, you want it to beat the market. I think Bitcoin is the best bet. Bitcoin is information, guys. It will never disappear. I don't care tomorrow if it goes down to zero. Somebody's going to take the ledger, redo it, put it back up, reignite it. It's not going to die. It's just information. I don't care tomorrow if they ban it. I don't care whatever happens. Some country somewhere is going to start that ledger up. It's the first ledger. It's the oldest ledger. It's the most populated ledger. I think it's going to be like that for a long time. It's just information. People have copies of that ledger everywhere. You can't break Bitcoin. It's going to be very difficult. Every time you ban crypto in one country, another country, it's an advantage not to use it. Banks need that competition to keep them honest. What happened in FTX is, from what I understand, is people left their money on an exchange. They trusted somebody. That's the beauty of crypto. You don't have to trust anybody. I don't trust the banker. I don't trust the FTX guy. I don't trust Quadriga. I never trusted any one of these guys. I trust that I lock my keys away. I have my crypto and I know the passcode. A few people that I trust may or may not know the passcode. One guy might know half and the other guy half or whatnot. But at the end of the day, you can keep your crypto secure. And I mean, I didn't look into FTX, but from what I understand, it was just similar to Quadriga. The guy had an exchange. I'm sure he was giving people fake tokens and whatnot. Just it shows up on your exchange, but if you try to put it in your wallet, it won't work. I don't know. I didn't look into it, but I imagine it's similar to Quadriga. Coach, I'm glad you and GSP have considered the carnivore diet. I recommend following Dr. Sean Baker, JRE 1050, December 2017, and Bart K to have a better understanding of the science and benefit. That's from Scott Xiong. Scott, I'll tell you, I've been following, what's his name? Anthony. Hold on, let me look him up real quick. He's very good. He's very knowledgeable. Actually, very impressed with him. I don't want to get his name wrong. What's his name? Okay, his name is Anthony Chafee. Anthony Chafee. He also did MMA. He's ex-rugby player, pure carnivore. He eats water, meat, and salt. That's it. The guy's in phenomenal shape. It's incredible. Like, I don't understand it. Supposedly you get scurvy if you don't eat fruit, like if you don't get vitamin C. He's saying, no, you don't need vitamin C. You don't need anything. You get it just from muscle meat. What about organs? Organs unnecessary. You could eat them once in a while if you're interested, but unnecessary. What about vitamin this? No, nothing. Meat, water, salt. 3 items. That's it. Guys, I don't know how he does it. He doesn't drink coffee. He won't have a piece of fruit. It's all bad for you. Plants, all that. It's incredible how pure of a carnivore he is. Now, he says he'll eat like butter and this and that once in a while, but he's really all about meat. He doesn't really do much else. I find it incredible. Now, here's the thing. I'd want to know, how does he get his glycogen? If he was training twice a day. Because the thing is, if you eat meat, the meat will eventually turn into glycogen. Your body will turn it into glycogen. Yes. However, if you're training twice a day, you won't have time to turn your steak into glycogen. You're basically, you're good for one practice or half a practice, I should say. How would you get the glycogen you need from meat only? Now, I bet they're going to say something like fat adapted. I don't find that to be true. Like, I tried really to become fat adapted. They say that if you're on fat for a long time, eventually you process fat as well as carbs, as fast as carbs. I have no proof of that whatsoever. Somebody sent me a study that proves it. I have yet to see that in terms of calories per second, you could be as efficient on fats as you can be on carbohydrates. I have yet to see that. There has never been a 400 meter or 100 meter sprinter that ran on fats. Never. It's always carbs. Always. Carbs burn at a higher rate. The glycogen is in the muscle. It's ready to be used right now. It doesn't have to go through a process to be turned into energy. Hence, it's quicker, faster, more explosive. So where do they get their carbohydrates from? That's my question. And I assume they're going to say that fat adapted, this not. I've yet to see a single study that proves this. I'm still open to it, but yet to see one. Coach, I attended one no gi class, one gi class, and one open mat. How do you assess this for your growth in BJJ and post-training recovery? That's from Hassan. Look, I would tell you do no gi first. I'll tell you why. I always get new guys walk in, and we're primarily no gi. We're going to be having gi again in the new year in jiu-jitsu. Okay, we're going to be starting gi again. We're going to be doing a little bit of gi, but we're mostly no gi guys. Okay, at TriStar, it's no gi. We have wrestling in our program. Of course, we have MMA, lots of MMA, kickboxing. There's kickboxing every day. There's wrestling every day. There's jiu-jitsu every day, no gi. And why is no gi better? Because when you do gi, it's like a crutch. Imagine I was teaching you to play hockey. I would first teach you how to skate without a stick. And then I would teach you how to use the stick separately from your skating. And then I would put it all together. That's the proper way to train. Why? Because if I teach you to skate with the stick, now you're using the stick as a crutch. You're using the stick to balance yourself. You're not using your feet. So for instance, Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players of all time, he was a figure skater before he was a hockey player. Then when he went into hockey, he could skate circles around everybody. Why? They taught him to learn how to skate without the crutch being the hockey stick. You use it for balance. Now, when I give you the hockey stick, you have your skating ability plus you have the stick to balance you. It's the same thing with gi. If you develop a spider guard game, if you develop, like I was rolling with a black belt the other day, and he put me in this weird like gi guard. It's kind of like a weird like deep De La Hiva hooks. It doesn't work in no gi. So I just like backstep pass, just like completely pass right away. And I was telling him earlier, I don't use that guard because it's more of a gi thing. He's like, oh yeah, you're right. But the guy's a black belt in gi, and now he's in no gi, and he's relying on his instincts because obviously the exchange. Whenever you're in the heat of a battle, guys, you don't have time to think. You're just doing what your core, what you've trained your body to do. So what happens if you start your core techniques with gi, and you're in the heat of a battle, you're gonna reach for a lapel. You're gonna do a movement that relies on the gi, and it's not there. So all my core moves are not gi oriented. So that if we're fighting with the gi and we're in the heat of a battle, but now there's a lull in the action, and I can think, and I see that the gi is there. Now the gi is an added weapon. Of course, I know all the basic gi chokes. I know advanced gi chokes and all that. I can use them if the gi is there. Tomorrow, if I'm in a fight and the guy's wearing a thick jacket, maybe I'll choke him with it, but I don't need it. I can choke him with or without the jacket. Now, if my game relies on a jacket and the guy's wearing a sweater like me, and we get into a fight and you're pulling on my sweater is just giving, it's stretching, it's ripping, I'm punching you. Now you're like, I can't hold the guy. I have no way to grip him. Yeah, that's the whole point. You should be able to grip the guy with or without a gi, with or without a shirt that rips or not. So of course, I take it even one step further. I think all jiu-jitsu guys should do boxing, Muay Thai. Absolutely. It doesn't make sense to do martial arts without stand-up. I think every jiu-jitsu guy, even if you're a world champion in jiu-jitsu, you should do kickboxing once a week, every week. Why? Because you need to learn how to defend yourself. One day you get into a mix, you know what you're doing. If you do it every day, if you do it once a week for 3 years, you have 150 lessons. Well, you could throw a punch, you could block, you could shield. It's not a lot, but it's good enough. I don't think you should have zero striking. Nobody should ever have zero striking. It's a really bad formula. So for me, my martial arts ultimately is to protect myself in a fight. Okay. Then it's sport. So for me, when I'm rolling around, guys, I think like, what would I do in a fight if I was in a real fight? I still think like that. And that's why I'm very selective on which moves I use. All my jiu-jitsu moves first they have to wear gi, no gi, and in a fight, a real fight. Okay, so this is how I select my criteria. Now, if you do a lot of gi, man, a lot of the moves are just useless for real fighting. Useless, completely useless. Like completely irrelevant in a real fight. Whereas in no gi, only 20% of those, like, and especially in the way I teach, only 20% is sport pummeling. Because you need it. Because we're not going to start like in an MMA position. So we have grip fighting, but that stuff's easy to use. That's really easy to learn and easy to use. 80% of your curriculum has to be core moves that will work in any situation. And that's going to reflect in your confidence. And I include takedowns in that, guys. There's no greater feeling than being able to take somebody down. That's just the ultimate feeling. I could take you off your feet. Now you're stuck between me and the hard place, the ground. So this is a very important element as well. It shouldn't be overlooked. What do you think of Gracie diet, i.e., balancing pH of your food intake? That's from James Robertson. I've heard of the Gracie diet. They have food combinations. I think that's kind of died out. I don't think there's any science to that. If there is, comment section. But from what I understand, there is no science to that. I don't think there's any science of food combinations. I think it's just like something that the Gracies developed, and some of them still believe in it, may or may not believe in it. I'm not sure. But I'm not very familiar with it. No. Not very familiar with the details of how it works exactly. I'd go to jail for Qatar. That's from Boobop. Boobop, be a good boy. If you're going to Qatar, respect the rules, my friend. Respect the rules. They're very serious about the rules in Qatar, my friend. Imperialism is the highest form of capitalism. That's from Dave L. That's interesting, but I'm not quite sure how I feel about that. Coach, should I compete in amateur kickboxing? My coach wants me to. That's from Court. I would say yes if you're ready. If you train for it, do it. If you're not trained for it, no. But if you're trained for it, do it, man. It's fun. Competing is fun. Coach, how do you feel about Kamzat versus Alex would play if they fought today? That's from IND Creations. I would tell you, I think I heavily favor Kamzat. This is a good fight for Kamzat. Like, he'll get it to the ground and it's going to be a party. Okay. Now, give Pereira some time to learn how to defend and maybe he has a chance. But right now, I just think that the differential in wrestling is just too great. Capitalism promotes riba, which is not halal. That's from Glitch in the Matrix. Riba, guys, for those who don't know, it's an Arabic word for interest. That's true. Now, I'm not a proponent for interest. What I'm saying, capitalism is free market. Okay, so capitalism is not based on interest alone. That's one element of capitalism, as you know, in the U.S. No, I'm not a fan of interest. I think it's one of the great ills of the world. I believe in money lending, yes, for a fee, etc. But interest, compound interest. I remember there's a quote about Einstein. I'm not sure if it's authentic or not, but he said something of the likes that if human beings understood compound interest, they would be a revolution tomorrow. Like, you're paying interest on interest on interest. You know, take a penny, type in 0.01 times 2, the penny. Would you want a penny that doubles every day for a month, or would you want $1 million? Everybody says $1 million. Then you double a penny every day for a month, and all of a sudden you see it's way more than $1 million. Why is that? Well, it's teaching you the lesson of compound interest, the power of compound interest. I remember in my economics class one time, they gave us a statistic that said that like over 90% of the world's wealth is made through interest, and I was like, that's impossible. That's impossible. Yep. Less than 1% of the world have over 90% of the world's wealth, and that's made through interest. So I learned a lot about capitalism. That's not the proponent I'm telling you is good. What I think is good is free market. If you look at communist countries, they never innovate. They never invent something new. They never invent the new cell phone. Why? Because if some guy sat around thinking about a better way to make a phone and he invented it, the state would own it. In America, they allow you to patent it. They allow you to sell it, and they allow you to keep the profits to a certain extent, to a great extent. So you have shows like Shark Tank where people are always trying to find the next big solution. Guys, money is two things. Money is two things. Listen carefully. Money is a product or a service. People pay for two things in life, product or services. If there's a third category, please let me know, because I don't know of one. Product or service. If you have a product that people want, they want that product, they're like, hey, shut up and take my money, you're going to make money. If you have a service that people want, and people are like, hey, shut up, give me that service, take my money. I'd rather that service than my money, you're contributing to society, you're in the free market. If we allow you to exercise that ability and make money off it, then all of a sudden everybody wants to make a product or create a service, which is good for society. Now you have people thinking all day long, how can we make life better? How can we make life better for human beings? Because human beings will give you their money if you can make their life better. Guys, I love when I get a testimony. I love when I made somebody's life better, because I feel that that's my job. If I want to be successful, I have to make other people's lives better. I get an intrinsic and extrinsic joy. If you can make other people's life better, you can make money. That's how you have to think about money. Not the other way. Like a lot of people think about money like, hey, how do I screw that guy out of money? How do I get, he has got money, I got to get it from him. They have this dog-eat-dog world type mentality. It's the wrong mentality to have. Wrong, absolutely wrong mentality. That's not a mentality that's going to last long in the future. You want to, how do I make people's life better via one of these two ways or both? Coach for us speaks the truth. That's from Bob. Bob. Thank you, my friend. Let's do a Montreal YouTube collab. That's from Babbletop. Babbletop. I haven't seen your channel, my friend. Let me look you up here. Babbletop, social news, entertainment videos, and a bunch of random stories. All right, let me see Babbletop here. Babbletop wants to do a collab, guys. Babbletop. Let's look him up. Babbletop. 795 subscribers. Holy moly. Oh, I'm going to get a strike here. Babbletop, don't strike me. 795. What do you do here? Fast food? What is this? 10 McDonald's items you have to try before it's too late. 10 reasons why Waffle House is cheap. Wow, what is this channel, man? Just talking about food. The whole channel is about food. Guys, you know who eats a lot of food? Me. Oh, man, look at this. Look at this. All food, food, food. 10 lawsuits Hooters doesn't want you to know about. 10 worst Thanksgiving dinner dishes. Top 20 over-the-top fast food pizza crust. Babbletop, you're on, man. Write me an email. I'm gonna put you as a moderator. I don't know if that allows you to contact me. Babbletop, you're on. Let's do a Montreal. If you're located in Montreal, I'd love to do it. That's awesome. Guys, Babbletop, check out his channel. Babbletop lets you know what's good to eat. Coach, are you watching the World Cup at Qatar? That's from MM75. No, I haven't been watching any soccer. I'll probably watch the playoffs and stuff like that. I'm excited to see that, but I haven't been following any of it. I'd rather be single without kids to save money, less problems. That's from Stoned Patty. Stoned Patty doesn't want to have kids. Yeah, but you know, if you don't have kids, when you get older, you'll regret it. Guys, I'm telling you. If you don't have kids, guys, think about this. Use the noodle a second, okay? Use your noodle. You go in the hard sciences, they tell you it's your whole genetics, all your genes are about survival and reproduction. Survival, reproduction, survival, reproduction. Your hand is made like this for survival, reproduction. Your eyes are made like this for survival, reproduction. Everything about your body is made for survival and reproduction. And then you walk around and you're like, hey, I don't want to survive. I don't want to reproduce. I just want to survive. Your entire genetic makeup is designed for you to reproduce. Guys, you know, it's incredible because like when I speak to evolutionary biologists and we talk about evolution sometimes, we have interesting discussions, and I hope one day to bring somebody on that's an expert in evolutionary biology, and we can have an interesting discussion. And I always tell them, look, if you look at Islam is all about survival and reproduction. Islam is all about survival and reproduction. So I tell them, like I tell these evolutionary biologists, I said, why are you a liberal? Liberalism is not about survival and reproduction. Liberalism is about, I want to live for me. So my friend here is saying, I'd rather not have kids. I'd rather have more money because I have more money for me. It's all about me. But your software and your hardware is opposite. My hardware is to survive and reproduce. You taught me that. I accept it. I'm made to survive and reproduce. I acknowledge that. But now when I live a lifestyle that allows me to survive and reproduce, and I want my children to survive and reproduce, and I want and I want the progeny to go on. I want to design my life so that I preserve this. My psyche and my physicality are one and the same. They're in harmony. And they're baffled. They're like, I don't know what to say. Like, I've never had a good retort to this. I always tell them, I'm living my genetic makeup. I'm living it. I want to survive and reproduce. Now think about marriage, guys. Why is marriage good? My friend says he doesn't want to have kids. I'm telling you, not only have kids, get married. Let me tell you why marriage is good. Fatherless children is one of the greatest ills of this world. Fatherless children. Now, if you grew up without a father, you can be an outstanding human being. And there are many great examples of very successful human beings that grew up without a father. Okay. But Google the statistics, gentlemen. Men without fathers are more likely to be suicidal, criminals, you're going to do jail time, alcoholics, gamblers, violent behavior, etc. Every negative statistic, they have a higher up. They're 20%, 50%, 80% more likely. Your chances of growing up in poverty skyrocket. Now, what community has the most children out of wedlock? You got to Google this as well. It's the poorest communities. Okay? Now, I don't want to name the race. I'll let you guys Google it. It also goes by race. There are certain races, and this is a cultural thing. Eventually, it'll change. It's not ingrained in their genetics. I don't believe that for 1 second. But I'm saying culturally, it's been made cool. Cardi B and her filthy mouth. Okay, guys? Cardi B and her filthy mouth. She's helping indoctrinate a culture of kids who are going to grow up out of wedlock. Like in Canada alone, single mothers cost us billions in tax dollars. Okay? Why? Because if you cannot identify the father, then you get money from the state. If you can identify the father, then you get money from that father and money from the state, but the state gives you less. Because there are so many women that have children out of wedlock, it costs money out of our paychecks. Like at the end of the year, I have to take money out of my bank account, give it to the government, because he's got to give it to that woman because she doesn't know who the father is. Now, is that fair? I'm not gonna say anything. All I'm saying is that child also, okay, he got his financial needs. He's more likely to be poor. I find that's unfair to him. But also psychologically, he doesn't have a male role model. He might grow up in a house full of women. He might have female mannerisms because he was raised by women. He might think more like a woman so that when he meets women in the real world, he gets friend zoned. Guys, this is a very well-known phenomenon. Very well-known phenomenon. Men are being raised by women. There was a boom of men being raised by women because, of course, there was a boom of divorce after the sexual revolution. There was a boom of divorce. Women are getting divorced. If they divorce their man now, they get half. They're incentivized to get divorced. Why should you stay with your man? He's not, I don't feel the honeymoon love anymore. Let me divorce him, take half his money. I'm incentivized now. Now the children are born. There was a time where it always went to the mother. Now there's shared custody. It's more well balanced now, okay, which is a good thing. But there was a time where it's the mother got the kids and the money. The father, take a hike, okay? So you had a generation of young kids who were raised by women, and there are many phenomena, sociological phenomena that arise from that. However, I think it's wrong to bring a child into this world and he doesn't have a nuclear family. I think it's a detriment to that child. Now, if it's done involuntarily, fine. But if your child is a byproduct of a drunken night, I think that's unfair to the child. I think that's very unfair. Because the kid's going to grow up with self-esteem issues. Guys, this is not my opinion. Read the research. Guys, please don't say Coach Zahabi's opinion. No, it's not my opinion. Read the research. Children that are born without fathers have many psychological hurdles to overcome. And many men do. Many men do. And I applaud those men. They didn't have a father figure and they were successful in life. This is a very difficult thing to accomplish according to the statistics. And the poor communities, they get drowned in a culture where this is acceptable. It's cool. This is not the case in certain other cultures. A single mother is frowned upon. How is she single? She's widowed. That's acceptable. Single? That means she was loose. She played fast and loose with the rules. That's why it's a much greater risk. Guys, I'm going to say something that I think is wholeheartedly true. And please, somebody, correct me if I'm wrong. Please, I say this with all open-mindedness here. In the spirit of open-mindedness. It's more dangerous for a woman to have casual sex than a man. Imagine a man who travels the globe and he has casual sex and he gets 2-3 women pregnant and he travels and he disappears and people request his DNA. He refuses to give his DNA. In Canada, you cannot force me to give my DNA. I don't know this woman. She slept with many men. Maybe I slept with her. Maybe I didn't. I can't remember. Let's look at her now. She gets pregnant. She had casual sex. She had sex with 4 or 5 other men that month. Who knows? She's just as promiscuous as he is. She has an STD. Well, there are pills for that. Yeah, but there are also damages now to the child. If a woman gets STDs, by the way, guys, she may not be able to give birth later on. But anyways, that's another story for another day. Now the child may have a STD. Okay, let's say they get pills and we fix that infection and she's fine. And let's skip the STD. Okay, well, now she has a baby on her hands, her body's different forever. Guys, for those of you who don't know, when women have bodies, they're going to have stretch marks later on. You could tell. You show me not that I would want to see, but you show me a woman that had a baby and didn't have a baby, I can identify which one did and which one didn't. Okay? For those of you who have experience. For men of experience, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? Now, her body changes, her sexual market value is going to drop. Guys, sorry to say, but most men don't want a woman who's had children already. Not that it's wrong. I don't agree with that. I would marry a woman who had a child if she's a good woman. I would have no problem with that at all. But I'm saying statistically, it's harder for women to get married. Again, guys, I'm referring to statistics here. You can look them up. They're quite simple. It's harder to get married when you have a kid, 2, 3 kids. It's very hard to get remarried. Okay. Why? Because the man's going to have to feed those kids. The man's going to have to come and, he's going to have to share his woman now with these kids. The kids they have diapers, bedtime stories, bath time, they wet the bed. It takes a child is a full-time job. Now my she has a full-time job with some other guy's kids. That's not the best scenario for a man who has a lot of things going for him. Okay. The woman after has to raise the kid. It's a full-time job on her hands. While the guy who disappeared, he doesn't have a hair on his head that's harmed. Some cultures accept this kind of lifestyle more than others. Look at them statistically. They have more negative side effects, far more. Now, if you grow up, your parents were married. Imagine this, your parents were married. You were planned. Your parents set up, your whole life was set up. They worked hard, they have an education, they have even an inheritance for you. What happens to your progeny? Well, those people usually get into politics. They run the country. They run it. That's what I'm telling you. Like, it's really important. Culture. What is culture? Guys, I'm going to define culture very specifically today. Culture is the psyche or attitude of a people. If I took everybody's attitude and I gave you an average of these people's attitude, an outlook on life, worldview on life, that's the culture of this country, state, etc. Okay. Now, some states, some cultures, having child out of wedlock is normal. Some cultures, it's not. What happens to them statistically? We have to look, compare. Generally speaking, the child pays very negative consequences on these things, guys. And this is not to be prude, guys. There's nobody likes sex more than me. I love being with my woman, but I wouldn't have a child out of wedlock. Never. Personally, no. Why? And I know people are going to say, well, coach, you could be together and not married. Okay, I understand that. But I would make sure that if I got a woman pregnant, that woman, I'm going to be with her. So she wouldn't be, how could I say? It would be someone I'm committed to. Okay, I'd be married and committed to. I understand some people don't believe in marriage. And I understand some people, they're together 4 or 5 years. They're committed to one another. They're going to have a child. I understand that. That makes sense. Okay. What I'm saying is, getting pregnant by somebody you just met, you're not intending to stay with them, and you're leaving and you're disappearing and she's got a baby on the way, etc. That's, in my opinion, a type of child abuse. If you read the statistics, please, gentlemen, Google the statistics. It's sad. It's a really sad thing. Okay, guys, I got a bunch of super chats during that tangent there. Let me see. Actually, I don't think I got a bunch. I got just a couple. Let's see here. Coach, do you ever take a moment and get amazed at the success you've achieved? Respect. That's from Denzel. Denzel, is very sweet of you. Very kind. Thank you for that. Sometimes I look back. Guys, I like to look forward. For sure, sometimes I look back and, it's a great journey, great adventure. But for me, the adventure is not over. I'm keep trucking forward. I still want to know more about martial arts. I still want to master martial arts at the deepest level. And for me, that's an ongoing, lifelong pursuit. So there's a lot of adventures to come. And especially now, the last coming out of the shut thing that has the word later on at the end of it, down, which I can't say because I'll get in trouble. And I already have issues with this, so I can't talk too much about that. But that thing is over now, and I'm rebuilding, and things are rebuilding, and things are better than ever. Okay, things will be better than ever. As now, we came out of a nightmare where the borders were closed. Now things are just climbing better than ever. So that's the future. I'm looking always forward. I do like to look back too much, but I'm not a nostalgic guy. I don't like nostalgia too much. Bash 12. Coach, I have to do boxing for 2 years, but I really eventually want to do MMA. Are there any bad habits that I should look out for while doing boxing? That's from Bash 1 2. Look, I would recommend doing Muay Thai along with boxing. Don't do just boxing because, yes, you will develop bad habits. I think boxing and Muay Thai go hand in hand. Why just do boxing? Do boxing 2 times a week, 3 times a week, and do kickboxing 2, 3 times a week. Or mix it up. When I was training with Sagat Pechendi, 11-time world champion, if we did 10 rounds of sparring that day, or if we did 10 rounds of whatever, bag work, it would be 5 rounds of boxing, 5 rounds of Muay Thai. So the workout was always cut in half. Okay? So he would never separate the two, and it worked very well for him. It worked very well for me. If you're going in there, you're doing 1 hour of training, let's say you schedule half an hour is boxing, half an hour is Muay Thai. 50-50. Okay? So that's what I recommend to you, because yes, you will absolutely develop bad habits. Bobbing and weaving, ducking your head, you'll get kicked in the head. You'll have your hands in the wrong place, because in Muay Thai, if you have your hands down here, you can get kicked in the head. Muay Thai guys will have a field day sometimes with you. Unless you're trained in Muay Thai, then you can fight in a boxing stance and still get away with that, because you understand Muay Thai. You have to understand Muay Thai to not get hurt by Muay Thai. This is very important. What do you think about ex-Muslims, like friendly ex-Muslim on YouTube, apostate prophet? Do their arguments hold weight? That's from Hassan. Guys, I've listened to a bit of apostate prophet. Guys, I don't understand. This guy's, he has no logical training. No logical training. He's just a researcher. He just hates Islam. He's a Turkish guy. I don't understand how he has the guts, honestly. I don't understand how he has the guts to show his face on the internet. Because look, it's okay to disagree academically, respectfully, but when you actively insult a community, like, I don't know how this guy walks around. Like, I hate to say it, guys, and I'm not advocating anything. Okay, I don't think anybody should do anything. But what I'm saying is he's taking a major risk, because he's insulting, he's provoking, he's trying to do something that's not really taken well. Okay, if I could put it that way, it's really dumb, in my opinion. I would advise him against it, because it's a matter of time. Yes, disagree academically, be respectful, disagree, say you're not a Muslim. That's not a problem. There's no issue there. When you go to university, guys, you don't start, but you can disagree with the professor, but you don't insult the professor. The professor's like, hey, get out. You don't insult your peers. They will tell you, get out. The university will tell you, get out. Why? Because when we insult each other, objectivity's gone out the window. Now it's all about comedy. It's all about getting views. I think he's just trying to get views. I think he earns his living like this. I think, there's a thirst for it, especially after 9/11. People despise Islam. Look, I get tons of hate because I'm Muslim. Plenty of people hate me just because I'm Muslim. Oh, they find that I'm Muslim. I hate this guy. They don't even know me. They just despise me. And I can tell you something. After 9/11, I feel it till this day. 9/11 changed the face of the earth. And people despise some people, not all. Most people are really nice, and I will tell you, I don't have a major problem, but some people just have this, they feel they have a right. They feel like they have a card. Oh, you're a Muslim? Because what happened 9/11, we have a right to go after you. And I think it's like, I'm not saying that's a apostate prophet. I think he's capitalizing on that. But listen, I've heard his arguments. And one time he was arguing that there's not just objective and subjective truths. And then Hijab was like, okay, what's the third option? He wouldn't say. Guys, he's completely wrong. Completely wrong. He has no logical training. His arguments are weak, daif, weak, man. Just pathetic. And I wouldn't even bother having a conversation with him, to be honest with you, because I don't think he could understand. I've listened to his. One time I was listening to philosophy podcast. He happened to be on it. It was so cringe how little he understands. So cringe, so like really uneducated, unschooled. Weak arguments, just like childhood. Only somebody with a very little understanding, very small understanding of Islam or logic would fall for this. And there are many guys out there like this. Many. Some educated, but most are not. And it's quite embarrassing. Like, it's really, really embarrassing, their arguments. You missed my super chat. That's twice you missed my super chat. Okay, hold on. That's from Little. Guys, I'm on the hunt for Little's super chat. Little, pardon me, I was not on purpose. Okay, I have going up, guys. I missed a few super chats. I'm on it now. Emmanuel D, welcome. Okay, I missed a few super chats. Hold on a second here. Speaking of great services, Burlington BJJ is great. Best in the GTA. That's from Alan Albana. Well, shout out to Albana. Guys, my brother, the head trainer at Burlington BJJ. Check him out if you're in Burlington. My brother is teaching there. He's also a black belt. Okay, check him out. Alex Chu. Oh, man. Hold on a second. I missed so many super chats, guys. What's going on here? Coach is dropping the ball tonight. Holy moly. I can't even find little super chat. Damn it. Little, give me a second. I'm going to go through the super chats and then I'm going to ask you to post your comment, okay? I missed a bunch of them. I'm going to do them all. Then I'm going to get to Little, guys. Don't forget, guys, please do me a favor. Cut and paste Little's comment that I missed. I remember a quote that GSP said, Wonderboy was the best MMA striker years ago. How would his striking fare against Izzy or Alex? That's from Alex Chu. Look, there was a time me and George were saying that Stephen Wonderboy is the best striker in MMA. Now, has that changed? Guys, I would say the best striker, I have to say, is Alex Pereira now, okay? The best striker, pure striker. I had Adesanya 1, Alex Pereira, best in kickboxing, and now I switched. Best striker in MMA, I have to say, is Alex Pereira. I know Alex Pereira was losing those rounds, guys. I picked Adesanya to win, don't forget. I think I was justified in doing so, but I only gave 51-49 because I was saying that knockout shot can happen at any time. Guys, he's a great finisher. In my opinion, the best striker right now is Alex Pereira, pound for pound. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, also in the top 5 for sure. However, because of the leg kicks, because of the nature of kickboxing has adapted to the cage. The reason why, if you look at Taekwondo and Karate, they have one major advantage. They're used to fighting without corners. So they fight long distance. When they compete, there's no edge, there's no ring, there's no ropes, there's no wall. The octagon, because it's so big and there's no corners, Muay Thai sometimes can be a little bit flat-footed, but they've been adapting it. The kickboxers have been getting wise to that. If you look at the new generation of kickboxers, we've changed things. We're doing all sorts of new things. So that's changed. That weakness is not so prominent anymore. So we're kind of, guys, I used to do boxing and Muay Thai. Now I do boxing, Muay Thai, and karate. I blend karate into my game. Why? For the very reason I just stated. Okay, so I think that they're catching up slowly. The Thai fighters, the boxers, they're catching up. They're adding that karate element. Speaking of great services, okay, I did that one. Next super chat. Coach, if brain transplant becomes possible, do you think consciousness of the previous person will also transfer to the new body? That's from my gym. If I took out my brain and I put it in a monkey's brain, a monkey's body, would I have a monkey's body in my brain, my thoughts? Well, I would say probably yes. Okay, but here's the thing. It's kind of hard, very hard to explain. The brain, imagine the brain like the receiver. Imagine your phone. Where's your cell phone? Okay, imagine my cell phone, okay? Imagine I break my cell phone. I buy a new cell phone. I log into my account, and now the tower is sending the information into my new cell phone. It's kind of like saying, I'm telling you, there's a relationship between the hardware and the software. The mind and the brain have a relationship together. Okay? And explaining this relationship is extremely difficult. So let me give you the dream scenario. Imagine we're in a dream, okay? And I take my brain out and I put it in a monkey's body. That brain in the dream is just an idea. Okay, don't forget, it's all mind. In idealism, everything is mind. Even though the brain seems like a physical thing in your dream. You're touching it, you're holding it, it's heavy in your dream. You feel it's just all theater. It's all mental perception. So when you put it in the monkey's brain, and you think, hey, that monkey now has a psyche, but the brain was also psyche. Everything is psyche. That's what I want to make clear. So when we ask materialist philosophers, people who believe that there's actually a thing out there that's material, that it's not part of the psyche, essentially we live in the mind of God, is what I'm trying to say. When we ask them to prove that the brain is physical, they never can. Guys, and I challenge anybody in the world, any materialist philosopher, anybody, any materialist philosopher who has a PhD, I'm going to get him on this channel. I'm going to converse with him for 30, 40 minutes, and he'll understand he has no leg to stand on when he claims material exists. It'll take me less than 1 hour. If he's an educated person, understands the terms I'm using, he will concede. He'll say, look, you're 100% right. It's only psyche. Period. Now, the arguments are not easy to understand, but basically, their arguments when they try to prove materialism is like so. They'll say, look, you see this physical brain? If I break this brain, the guy has no more mind. You see that dog over there? If I cut out this part of his brain, he can't walk left anymore. If I take out another part of his brain, he can't bark no more. If I take out another part of his brain, lights go out. That physical brain of his affected that psyche you were noticing once upon a time. But you see the fatal flaw in their logic. Any logician in the world is going to agree with what I'm saying right now. He committed a fallacy. He assumed his conclusion in the first premise. Therefore, his argument is invalid. So we call in philosophy invalid. You can't assume. We asked you to prove the brain is physical, and then you said, okay, you see this physical brain, I'm going to manipulate it. But you assumed it's physical in the very first premise. So then they go around trying to prove it another way. There is no other way. At the end of the day, guys, when we give them our counter evidence, it's always psyche. We only ever experience psyche. So if you take the brain, will you have the psyche? Yes, because all there is psyche. Absolutely all there is psyche. We have a category. Dualism is only true in category. Okay, one famous Muslim thinker once said this. He said, look, it's only true as far as we know, in category, meaning I have this internal world that I'm experiencing, and then I have this external world that I'm experiencing. There are two different categories, but are they all psyche? Yes. Now, there are other possibilities, but we know for certain that psyche is the only thing we have contact with, if I could put it to you that way. Okay, guys, I'm going to just do the super chats, and we're going to probably tidy it up here, end this shortly. Can you recommend any strength training routine for MMA practitioners? Do you train strength every day after practice? How do you split exercise, etc.? That's from Pradik. Pradik, I'm releasing a PDF for those who bought Strong and Stable Knees. I'm doing a PDF for every Strong and Stable. It's coming out shortly. This one should be released hopefully next week, guys. I'm a little bit late. My apologies again. There's a 3-week cycle. I teach you guys exactly how to do this. Once you can lift, yes, you do strength. Once you can lift 1.3 times your body weight in the deadlift or squat, it's time now to do endurance. It's time now to do muscular endurance, cardiovascular endurance, and plyometrics. Okay? It's all in the book. I teach you what to do if you cannot deadlift 1.3 times your body weight. And then I give you a schema of what to do when you can. Okay? It's all in there. It's a chart. It's super simple. I make you guys do a 3-week cycle. 3 weeks of hard training, 1 week of not so hard training. All the details are in there. Okay, guys? It's coming. It's clear as day. It's clear as day. I have a lot of nice conditioning strategies for you guys. It's coming shortly, I promise. Coach, do you ever take a moment and get amazed? But okay, I did that one. Thank you very much. Salam, Coach. I'm doing well. A good job and started a cafe business. 100% focused on work, but don't want to get married yet. I have sexual desire. You and you alone or the rest of us? We all suffer from this. Don't worry about it. I have sexual desires but am Muslim. How do I manage that as a youngster? That's from Hamid. Guys, this is for those of you who are not familiar with Muslims, if you don't have like a lot of Muslim friends, this is the majorest dilemma. One of the worst things we can do is what we call zina. Guys, you have to learn about Islam a little bit. Okay? Even if you're not Muslim, you should know a little bit about Islam. It's a major world religion. Zina is like the biggest sin. You know, I was in a mosque. Where was I? What country was I in? Man, what country was I in? Oh, I was in the UK. Oh, yeah, I remember this. I guess it was Friday prayer. We go to the mosque, and the preacher's just on and on about zina. Like, zina is like extramarital sex. Like, you can't have sex outside of marriage. And he's going on and on and on. He just won't stop. Like, the subject of the day was don't commit extramarital sex. And I understand. Like, I travel all over the world, and I go to different mosques. And the problem they have in this country, in the UK, is because the Muslims are always having extramarital sex. Why? the English women are liberated. They're just they're extramarital sex is normal to them. It's casual. It's expected. You take her out on a date one, maybe date two. Usually date one nowadays. You swipe this side. They're available for you. Now, in the Arab world, it's very different. So you have these immigrants coming from the Arab worlds, and they're like, hey, the women here are engaging in sexual intercourse now. They're doing zina. So this preacher man, he's trying to slow this wave down. And that's the constant dilemma. We're told not to do that when we're young. The guilt of doing it, it's just so difficult. You're not ready to get married. I would tell you guys, the workaround is really simple. You do you get married, but you make it a casual thing. Like you marry the girl, you intend to keep her for her life. Yes, she's a good girl. You do we don't have to get married in government, like for instance, legally. Like for instance, me, when I got married, the preacher man came, our families came, we did the marriage in front of everybody. We're married by in the eyes of God, but I didn't want to do my paperwork. My dad wants to send in my paperwork. I'm like, no, Dad, no paperwork, just religiously married. My dad's insisting, no. I'm like, why is he doing this to me? Like, why is my dad doing this to me? Now, lo and behold, the marriage worked out. Now, it wasn't like you're not supposed to ever get married just for sex, just to make it halal, kosher, and then with the intention of divorcing. No, that's not the case. Not what I was doing at all. But I had a small wedding because I wasn't in a financial situation where I could throw this lavish wedding. So I didn't. I did a very small wedding. Very, very small. And in my house with 50 people. And just catered family cooked. Very basic wedding. We sat on the couch, got married. Sat down, the preacher man came. We did our vows, we exchanged gifts. Family, I had a eyewitness, the family witnessed, 50 people, small marriage, we took pictures, everybody was happy, we ate. Short and sweet, guys. Married. That's the simpler way. That's what you should do. If tomorrow you get divorced, okay, you got divorced. Doesn't matter. You did it the halal way. Your intention was good. You did it the kosher way. And that's all. Why get the government involved? That's what I don't like. My father enforced me to get the government involved. Believe me, I would have ended it like the plague. I would have avoided it like the plague if I could. Why? Because I'm not stupid. My dad's from the old country where divorce is such a rarity. Here it's a 50%. So again, luckily me and my wife got along. Everything's great. Never had a problem. But me, I'm the type of guy I'd rather do it. I like to keep the government out of my personal life. Let's put it that way. I like to keep the government out of my personal life. Now, that brings up another post I saw where I shouldn't even mention this. But one guy was saying, look, you could do 7 years in jail if you marry 2 women in UK. You could do 7 years in jail if you have 2 wives. But what happened to love is love? It's just love. Why are you discriminating against my love? They're kind of flipping it around 180. And like I was saying earlier, every society's got to draw a line in the sand for what's right for it, their lifestyle, their culture. And I respect every culture. I live in Canada. Here in Canada, you can only have 1 wife. I respect that. Okay. What I'm trying to say is it's not haram to get divorced. So don't make such a big deal out of it if you and your wife don't get along in the future. So I would say get married. Get yourself a prenuptial agreement if you're worried about your assets. Guys, I'll tell you something. I have a prenuptial agreement. I'm not ashamed to say it. I think it's totally correct. I had assets when I was younger, when I got married. Having assets, you have to protect them. I tell my lawyer all the time, I sleep so good because under my pillow, I tease my wife. Guys, me and my wife are super close. I tease her all the time. We joke. But I tell him, look, I have an airtight prenup. I sleep at night. I don't have nightmares. If I ever do, I just pull out my airtight prenup and reread it again. Because as you get older, you start thinking about my friends. As my friends get divorced. And luckily, I'm not divorced. I'm really happily married, guys. So, again, this is a joke. My wife has a great sense of humor. We joke around. Believe me, she takes it. She gives it. Believe me, she tells me there's no such thing as an airtight prenup. And my lawyer told her so. And believe me, we have a back and forth. It's funny. It's jokey. But the truth of the matter is, when I did get married, I did everything. You're telling me you have a cafe? Protect your assets. It's fair. Make it fair. Never take advantage of people, but make it fair. If you have assets and you marry a young woman, and you guys know each other for a year, 6 months, not even a year, so you know each other 2 months, maybe 3 months, you want to get married, you're a fool not to protect your assets. You're a fool. Of course, if we get married and we're together, My prenup is very generous. You know, like if we have kids, you get this much. If we have together this long, you get this much. However, I can tell you, I know guys who have been married for only 1 year. 1 year. And in this country, guys, in this country of Canada, you're married for 1 year. You're liable. One of my dear friends got married, divorced in about a year, lost a fortune. A fortune. Now, when I ask him about his ex-wife, he foams at the mouth how angry he is. He didn't protect his assets. He didn't listen to the old coach. The coach told him, no, you have to protect your assets. If you're going to marry this girl, she's coming in with this amount. If she's in and out, she doesn't give you children, you're not together. Maybe she's just in for the money. You don't know that. Protect your assets. If she's not in for the money, she should have no problem. I think deals have to be fair. And I think it's unfair if either the man or the woman has assets and you marry into the family. And then after a year or two, you walk away with some of those assets. It makes no sense. You weren't there at the beginning when we built these assets. That's a different story. If I was marrying a woman who was crazy rich, let's say I was marrying a woman who's like 10 times the money I have. She tells me I want to sign a prenup. I would say yes, 100%. You and your family and your hard work, you guys built these assets. These belong to you. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm offended. This is not at all. Those are your family's assets. But what we built together from here on in, other than this, let's say, I don't know, let's say she has a famous cafe like you do. But let's say in the future, if we go on ventures together, we make money in some other way, of course that's split. Business is simple. Make things fair. And I think it's ridiculous when one party refuses to sign a prenuptial agreement when they came in with no assets or less assets. Because obviously their gain is to walk away with assets they never earned. All right, what other super chats am I behind on? Okay, guys, there was a man named, I think his name was Little. Little, missed it again. Okay, brother. I got Little, guys. I'm looking at the comment section. Please, Little, type in. Don't put any more super chats. Just type in your question or comment, and I'm going to address it. Angelo Drone. Guys, I'm waiting for Little's comment. He takes precedence. He's had 2 super chats. Okay, here we go. No, sorry. Young Joe. Little, repost, please. Message to Little, repost. I'm going to take Angelo Drone's message, and then I'm going to get back to Little, okay? I'm waiting on Little, guys, please. Coach, I train with Denhar every day. Anything he likes or hates in his students? I think he likes me fine, but just asking. That's from Angelo Drone. Angelo, I'll tell you something about John. Training with him for many years. I absolutely love the guy. We have a very close and personal relationship. And I would tell you, you're very lucky to train with him. It's a very amazing thing to train with this incredible mind of jiu-jitsu. But I would tell you, he loves dedicated athletes. Be dedicated. Show up to practice. It doesn't mean you have to ask him a million questions. No. Be dedicated. Show up to practice. Drill. Train well. Try to impress him in the practice room. Show him you understand. Show him that you thought about what he said. Show him that you can... everything he's teaching you, you appreciate and don't take for granted. Like, you really want to immerse yourself in jiu-jitsu. You guys will be 2 peas in a pod. He loves people who are dedicated to the craft, because I'll tell you something, he's incredibly dedicated to his craft, and he loves like-minded people. Guys, any word out from Little? Little, here we go. We got Little. Little man, Ghazali was a Sufi. I do not have much knowledge on Sufism, and I admire Hamza Yusuf. Is Sufism the path to take? My 4th super chat. That's from Little Littman. Okay, Little, guys, he's asking about what is Sufism. Sufism is a name they give to Muslim mystics. Muslim mystics. Now, guys, some people call me Sufi. I don't call myself Sufi, okay? Because I'll tell you something. I don't know what you mean by that term. Like, when you look at modern-day Sufis, they dance, they chant, they sing. I don't do any of that. Okay, they spin around in a circle, and they have reasons for that. Okay, why do they spin around in a circle? Well, look at the universe. Everything in the universe is spinning. Okay, literally everything. There's nothing in the universe that we know of right now that's not spinning. Everything is spinning. Even it may be very much so that the entire multiverse is spinning. We don't know. Everything observed in the universe is spinning one way or another. Now, they talk a lot about this observation, and when they spin, you see Sufis, they spin, they wear like these dresses. Guys, I don't do any of this, okay? Even though people call me Sufi, and I'll tell you why they call me Sufi. But even though I don't refer to myself as that ever. when they spin, they're in a type of ecstasy because they have this enlightened experience. We're going to talk about that shortly. And when they spin, they become disoriented. They lose sensation of the body. Their great escape, they talk a lot about, Rumi, who talks a lot about the reed. The reed, what's the reed? Okay, if you look at a reed bed, if you take a reed bed, like it's like a plant, you cut it and you make a fluid out of it. If you blow into that fluid, it sounds like it's crying. It's like I'm not going to try to imitate it, but it's like a wailing. The flute sounds like it's sad. So they refer to them they refer to themselves as like this flute, this reed flute. I know it's very kind of like poetic and like sad or whatever, because they want to go back to where they came from. That's their whole thing. We want to go back. We want to go back to the reed bed. Like that's why this thing sounds so sad. It's missing where it was once came from. Because they believe we come from God, right? The Sufis, Muslims, who believe we come from God. When God created Adam, he breathed into him his spirit, soul, ruh, whatever you want to translate it as. There's a divine essence we're touched by, our soul. It's given to us by the divine. It's not part of this world. They want to go back to that world. So when they're spinning, they lose their bearings on where their body is. They become just a soul. Because when you spin and the brain is spinning, and the flesh to them is like not bad. It's not bad. Like Christianity, in certain traditions of Christianity, the flesh is evil, especially in the Gnosticism, okay, which I know most people won't consider Christianity. The body, bad. The spirit, good. We hate the body. We don't want the body. The body's bad. Sufism is kind of there a little bit, okay? Not as bad, definitely not as extreme. But when they start spinning, they lose their bearings on their body, and they have just that internal experience, okay? Let's call it the mind for now. And they're in ecstasy because there is no mind, there's no content to the mind, there's no body, and now they feel like they're a step closer towards the afterlife. When this body finally dies, it goes back in the ground. Oh, that's when they're going to be happy, when they're just spirit, when they're just back to soul. Because this body is always taking them away from this. It's the distraction. You're hungry, you're cold, you're constantly taking care of this body. You're constantly running after your sexual desires. You want to, the body, you have to brush your teeth, comb your hair, wash your body. It's so much time and energy. I can never be with the soul. I always have to come back down to earth, and that's their mentality. Now, why do people call me Sufi? Because I have also a philosophy that hinges on that we only know one thing, and the Sufis are correct in this one thing. That there is a unity. Okay, so there is a unity. When you forget the body, you forget the mind, you forget the whole system. There's a state of unity. And my whole philosophy bases on this. And this unity, let's call it the sign of God. And I say this openly, and ask any philosopher, any logician to try to cross-examine me. In the end, he has to agree with me. There is no way to doubt this. When you doubt, think about it like this, okay? If you doubted your doubt, if people say, I doubt everything, there's going to be a paradox if you say, I doubt everything. Do you doubt that you doubt? Well, if he doubts that he doubts, he can't be doubting that he doubts, because he's actually doubting that he's performing you have to be, you're certain that you doubt. So there's a self-referential paradox. Always. This is only eliminated once there is no more paradoxes, there are no more contradictions. There's only pure, naked truth once we find this unity. And it's a very hard thing to describe. I've tried it many times on the channel. I'm not going to try it again today. But that's what Sufism is. They come in contact with this unity, and all of a sudden they talk weird. They sound weird. They sound weird to other people who have never had this experience. But they get up and they twirl and they spin for that physical reason. They want to disorient. They hate the body. They want to get away from the body. When they get away from the body, either through thought or through physical action, once you get away from the body, there's a sense of ecstasy. Okay? So, you're asking me, is that the right way? Ultimately speaking, I believe you should get there by the intellect, not by physical means, not by taking drugs. Some people do it by drugs. Some people take so many, ayahuasca. What do you call that again? Psychedelics, and they obfuscate parts of their brain, and then they can have this type of ecstasy. Some people do it through contemplation, which is what I commend, and some people do it through physical action and contemplation together. Okay, now, I personally haven't done it any other way than contemplation. Okay, you can ignore my first chat. This direction of tasawwuf is much better. May I ask if you have a sheikh? If so, who? So I can make dua for him. That's from Clifton Adam. Clifton is asking, the direction of tasawwuf is much better. Tasawwuf, guys, what's tasawwuf? You get that chat room is really using a lot of Arabic today. Tasawwuf is a practice in Islam, which means like purifying the heart. Okay, so in Islam, like when you convert to Islam or you become Muslim, first you learn to wash, you learn hygiene. Then you learn the prayers. Okay, prayers like you're on time. And then after that, it's tasawwuf, like don't get angry. All the virtues. Don't be jealous. Don't be violent. Don't be, every vice. Don't be envious. Don't be miserly. Like don't be cheap. Don't be bakhir. Like don't be, how do you say in English? Like stingy. All these things. This is the higher level of Islam, which is sad because most Muslims never get to that. They never study this. I did the rituals. They think Islam is ritual. They never learn tasawwuf, which is the saddest thing because the whole point of the rituals is to bring you to tasawwuf. Guys, if you didn't get to tasawwuf, I don't know why. What's stopping you? Like that's the good part. That's the best part. So there are many aspects of Islam, but tasawwuf is the ultimate goal. So every step is a step towards. Like every rule we have in Islam is to get to tasawwuf. But some people just they're really good at following rules. But what do you think these rules are for? What do you think these rules are for? Why shouldn't you commit zina? We talked about this. Why shouldn't you have all this extra? Because that's gluttonous. You're being a glutton. You're putting your sexual desires before the good of the community. You're being selfish. Okay, we're going to have to restrict ourselves a little bit. Okay, yeah, I want to restrict myself. Ultimately, that's going to bring me a greater sense of happiness. Okay, but you have to get to tasawwuf. So our friend here is asking, do I have a sheikh? Guys, I don't really have a sheikh, to be honest with you. Like a sheikh is like a preacher. I don't have that. I just study and research myself personally. Okay, but I appreciate it. Pick a sheikh that you like. I like Yasser Qadi. Make dua for him, inshallah. Coach, his knees messed up because Nazar. What? All right. Psychedelics are as such a big talk right now. Joe Rogan supports it so much, but my issue is rarely hear the people that promote ayahuasca or DMT that doing it regularly is the most harmful drug. That's from 5 Pillars. Look, I don't know. Some people say psychedelics are not harmful. I don't know about that. Honestly, let me Google that right now. And don't take my Google. I'm not doing an intense research here, but I've heard people say. Try spelling psychedelics. Psychedelics and mental health. Okay, let's look it up. I think, look, I would never do a drug. Okay, personally, like whatever, do ayahuasca. I was asked to do ayahuasca once. Not my thing, but look, like I would have to know a lot about ayahuasca. What is it exactly? I don't like to take anything that's gonna mess up my mind. I gotta be honest, I don't know much about ayahuasca. Okay, but I understand. Hold on a second. Anything that harms the health, I would never take. Okay. Psychedelic Association. Oh, man. Hold on. Psychedelic health risk. Let me look that up. Okay. Health risk. It's got to be risky, man. If it's altering. Okay, no, hold on. I'm not going to get into these articles. Something quick. What part of the brain said that? Oh my God, man. Can psychedelics heal brain trauma? Oh boy. Some say it could help the brain. Psychedelics change brain structure using super resolution. That's the thing. I'll be scared to change my brain structure. I don't know how much studies they have on this. I was reading a book one time on psychedelics, and I had to stop reading it because the guy at one point he was like talking about like how he became a woman psychologically, and he just lost me. It was a scientist taking psychedelics. He's giving you his doses, and it was really interesting. I was really interested to see about his experience. He was testing on himself, okay, which is as close to ethical as you can get. And then all of a sudden, he lost me in the book because he was talking about like how he got in touch with his feminine. I don't know why, guys. Call it Arab toxic male masculinity. Call it whatever you want. Okay, I just couldn't listen anymore. I had an audiobook. I bought it. I was really excited about it because I was like, oh, this guy experimented on himself. We're gonna have some real, interesting data here. Obviously it's anecdotal, but still. And he totally lost me. Yeah, Raul Duke, hard pass. That's correct. You will see demons on psychedelics, I imagine. Coach, is bowing to Elio haram? I couldn't find a ruling as I don't think the ulama are on the mats rolling. Jazakallah khair. That's some J. In Islam, we don't prostrate to men. But a respectful bow, I think is okay. Again, I'm not a sheikh, I'm not a mufti. Ask your local mufti, but I think culturally it's okay because it's their culture. I think I've heard arguments that a certain degree is allowed because Muslims, we don't prostrate to human beings. Okay, so I don't think it's an issue if it's a cultural thing. It's not worship. Obviously, it's not worship. So I don't think he's taking it as worship. It's just a bow in terms of respect. Like when I was in Thailand, I would give the way. I would bow to others. It's just a way of saying, the meaning behind the way is this is me, this is you. We're one. We share a type of essence. It's a respect thing. It's not a worship thing. So in that sense, I took it in that spirit. But prostration, no, I wouldn't do that for any human being. Could you talk more about your experience with burnout? I've seen the video you put out. Guys, this is from Mark Reynolds. I once upon a time had burnout. I was working, burning the candles at both ends, and missing almost an entire night of sleep every week. Like literally working the night shift, waking up in the morning to go to work. I was young then. I would go out and I would go next day straight to work. It was really bad. Like I was going to school, training, competing, fighting, training professional. I was really burning the candle at both ends. It was insane what I was doing. Guys, the mind is way stronger than the body. And the body caught up. The body told the mind one night I was at work and I got what they call an onset headache. I had a sharp pain behind my eye and my head started hurting. Literally, I could tell you the time. It was around 7 p.m. I was fine, feeling fine 1 minute, and then the next pain, undeniable shearing pain in my eye and behind my eye and my head. Everything irritated me. I was tired. I was fatigued. All of a sudden, my world came crashing down. I could barely sleep how agitated and pain I was. I had to be in a dark room. I couldn't see light anymore. No joke, guys. Burnout is the thing. I got diagnosed as burnout. I was given pills to try to put me to sleep. I was then sleeping. I took 3-4 weeks off, not doing anything, not going to school, not working, not training, nothing. Just sleeping in a dark room for like 20 hours a day, nonstop, just sleeping on those pills, sleeping. And it made me feel a little bit better. Took the onset headache away. I had a very bad burnout. Very bad. I know that people had burnout, not this bad. It took me about 10 years to recover. 10 years. If in that 10 years I missed a little bit of sleep, I felt horrible the next day. If I had to travel and I missed a night of sleep, it would take me 3 days to recover. Now I can miss a night of sleep. The next day I'm in the gym. Guys, I'm past my burnout, thankfully. Diet and exercise, I got back, and proper sleep. I respect my sleep now. Even now, if I miss a night of sleep, I can survive. I can train. I could do whatever. Okay. But it took me about 10 years. I'm not joking. 10 years. For 10 years, if I didn't sleep right, I couldn't function. Sleep was super important. I got everything ready. I had to sleep. I had to sleep properly. I'd sleep. My room had to be warm. I had to be dark. I slept with a mask. I slept with earplugs. I couldn't disrupt my sleep. If I traveled, I had to make it up. If I missed a night of sleep because of traveling, I had to skip practice the next day. I had to sleep in. It was torturous, guys. Avoid burnout. Take 1 or 2 days off a week where you don't train, you rest, you relax, you enjoy your time. I take 1 day off a week, and I'm very serious about it. I know that I need time off. Sometimes I take 2 days off a week. It's very important. Take time off. Don't burn the candles at both ends. In the end, when you burn the candles at both ends, you end up being less productive. Remember that. Your quality dips, and then you end up like me, having to take more time off. Having to take days off if you stayed up late because you had to do something, you had a project, and you couldn't get to bed on time. You didn't get your solid 8 hours. I couldn't function the next day. It was horrific, guys. Do not take burnout as a joke. It's a very serious thing. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this up now. It is almost 1 a.m. here. I'm going to wrap this up. Could you talk more about your experience with burnout? Okay, I did that one. Guys, let's end it on one last comment or question. It's 7:55 a.m. Stayed up all night for this one. That's from Little, my man. Well, welcome. Another super chat. What do you think about the philosopher Zizek? I've heard his name, but I haven't listened to him. I think he's really more into politics, right? So I'm not really in the political wing of philosophy. So from what I understand, Zizek is like a communist, I believe. Let me look him up real quick. I know that name. It's a famous name. It's a modern philosopher. Let me look him up real quick. Zizek, yeah, it's this chubby guy with a beard here. Let's see. Slovenian philosopher, cultural theorist, and public intellectual. He's the international director of Birkbeck Institute for Humanities. Okay, what are his views here? Let's see. Zizek ideology is made up of fiction that structure political life. Lincoln's term, ideology belongs to the symbolic order. Zizek argues that these fictions are primarily maintained at an unconscious level rather than conscious one. See, the two things I don't really go into is story and politics. That's his domain. I find that to be less exciting, less intriguing, even though, of course, I touch on it, but it's not my main, definitely not my forte. So I don't know much about him. Okay, guys, you know me. I like to end it on a good one. Chubby guy with a beard. Typical commie. Yeah, it's probably communism. Probably a communist. How do you deal with performance pressure? That's from JN. JN, I've talked about this at length. So I unfortunately sidestep that. But listen to my last podcast. I went into it quite heavily. Missed my super chat. That's from PK. PK, please put it back in the comment section. I'm looking for your super chat, PK. Please just copy and paste or just type it up. PK, I'm waiting for your comment. Psychedelics will help you with stress, anxiety, burnout, etc. in your life. Believe it or not proven, but studies are coming out. 100%. Guys, that's from AJ. AJ guarantees you 100%. I don't think so, man. Honestly, I'd be very careful with psychedelics. I wouldn't like to alter my mind, but I think it probably has long-term effects. I suspect, and I don't know much about this, but it probably will have as high as you go, you'll have a crash after. And it's going to be kind of like ecstasy. You'll have trouble having just a regular mood. It's going to have a vicious cycle. Then you need ecstasy just to get back to regular state where you started from, right? Because you take ecstasy, you feel amazing, you feel incredible, then you crash, then you need more ecstasy to go back just to normal. Eventually, you become less and less receptive to the drug. PK12, Floyd, all of Bukhari isn't sahih. Oh boy, what a question. PK12 is saying, look, because in Islam we have the Quran, and then we have the sayings. The sayings are things the Prophet did, alayhi salam. These things were written down or put in volumes, or I should say put in a canon about 200 years later. Some people say they're not as certain, which I agree. I think the Quran is the most certain. There's nothing, even Bukhari, Mutawatir, the highest. So we have classifications. Okay, it's a whole science. Okay, which I'm not an expert in. Okay, I'm quite weak on hadith. Okay, but I understand the general terms of the science. Okay, so you have all these sayings. Some are true and some are not true. Some we know for a fact are not true. Some we know for a fact. So it takes somebody who dedicated their life to go out there and sift through. Now, if you bring me a hadith and you tell me that these 5 experts said it's sahih, I accept it. Okay. Now, I think the Quran is on another level because no human beings, it says in the Quran, nobody, even if the jinn and mankind came together, they couldn't produce a work like it. And I believe that. Every endeavor to try to purify what was said at that time, every man-made effort, the hadith, the seerah, it's not perfect. It can't be. It's man's best shot at trying to get close to being flawless. And so they have this, we have this incredible system of categorization, what is true, and chains of narration all the way back to the prophet who said those words, who heard him. And you have to have multiple sources that said it. So it's fascinating. It's fascinating. However, it can't reach the level of Quran. So I agree with you. It's not perfect, but it's still very useful because we can't interpret the Quran without it. So, this is a very complex topic. I'm not an expert in it, but I would tell you that the fact that they have to categorize it tells you that everybody admits to that there's some that are much more certain than others. Coach, I ate eighth of a shroom and called the ambulance last year. Well, ouch. What do you think about the effects of porn on the mind? That's from Hassan Haytham. Guys, I'm in on this. No more super chats, guys. Please, I can't do any more super chats. We have a $50 super chat. Coach, can you talk more about the experience with... Okay, I did that one. By the way, Mark, thank you. No more super chats, guys. I have the final super chat. I have the final. What do you think? Let's see. Okay, guys, I have one super chat that snuck in. No more super chats after this. That's it. Do not super chat. Why do you think we see little Muslim involvement in carnivore and alternate health community? That's from Akron. I don't think that's, Muslims could be on the carnivore diet. It's just probably not of great interest. I mean, there's very few carnivores out there. I think it's a very, very small community. People who get the majority of their calories from meat, I think, is a very small community. So, I mean, you could say that about every culture. Why isn't there, I don't know, a rabbi who's carnivore? Like, he's probably not a lot of people do carnivore. It's just a small group. Eventually, it could catch on in any community. Okay, guys, the final one. What do you think about the effects of porn on the mind? That's from Hassan Haytham. Guys, let me take a drink of water here, please. Guys, when I was young, it was very difficult to see a naked woman. Very difficult. And of course, we were young, and that's the only thing we wanted to hear and see. Okay, we want to see women. We're obsessed with women. Today, young men don't know if they're a boy or a girl. Us, we knew we were boys. In a long time ago, far, far away, in a land far, far away. Guys, no more super chats, please. This is the final one. I have to go to bed. Young men, we were like infatuated with women. Okay, and I know a lot of you still are today. We didn't have debates. We were certain. Okay, and I understand there were... there must have been guys in my school that were gay, born gay. I don't know. I'm not an expert in these things, but I will tell you, I'm sure there was every sort. However, it felt like 99%, 99.9 were all obsessed with women. Nowadays, you go on the internet, you go on your laptop, you go on Netflix, you're going to see naked women. You go on anything. You go on YouTube, you're going to see naked women. You're going to see women almost naked. You're going to see almost very... we didn't have that growing up, okay? And I think, and studies show this, actually. There are very interesting studies on impotence. Okay, guys? For those of you who don't know what impotence is, it's like when you can't get it up, okay? This you have to avoid, in my opinion, like the plague. You got to do everything for your health in that domain. You know, it's funny because I know everything about keeping yourself healthy in that domain. It's very important to me. It's very important to me. It should be important to every man. I want my heart to be healthy. I want my mind to be healthy. I want my body to be healthy. And guess what? I want my manhood to be healthy. Very important. Super. Put that on top of the list. Put that before mind and body. It's very ultra important. Okay? Now, porn is very bad for that health. Very bad. I'll tell you why. There's a major study they did on young men, prepubescent or close to puberty, who grew up on porn, because now we have the data, and then tried to get off porn. They were still impotent. The generation of men my age, where porn became a boom, they got hooked on porn, then got off porn, impotence went away. If you get access to porn too young, and you get hooked on it for too long, you can lose your ability to have pleasure. Now, I tell my kids, I know my kids have access to the internet, and I'm sure their network of friends are sending all sorts of media. I'm sure. I can't stop it. I tell my sons, I sit them down, I tell them, look, you can listen carefully, young men and fathers out there. You can have pleasure now, or you can have pleasure later. Listen carefully. You can have pleasure now. You can watch all these things. It's going to destroy your neurology somehow, some way. We don't have an explanation. We just know the data. And over time, it's going to hurt your pleasure in the future. You know, I was watching what was I watching with my wife? I was watching a show about some actor who meets women, and when he meets them, he's got to beat the hell out of them. He's got to strangle them. He's got to tie them up. It's crazy. It was a crazy documentary. I can't remember. The guy's name was Archie Hammer. Archie Hammer, a famous Hammer family. They're oil tycoons. They're bazillionaires. And now this is the great grandson. He's rich, spoiled. He's an actor. He's got money. And when he meets women here, he has to beat the hell out of them. He's got to tie them up. He's got to choke them. All this sick stuff. Why is that? Why do you think that is? Well, when you're exposed to a stimulus, you need more of that stimulus because you slowly get desensitized. Like, I'm forgetting the name of the phenomenon. Okay, forgetting the name of the phenomenon. If you drink alcohol every day, eventually you're going to need more alcohol to get drunk. If you never drink alcohol and you give a guy a beer, he might get drunk off 1 or 2 beers. Okay. You develop a tolerance. So now you need something more extreme. You need something more extreme. You need something more potent because you're not getting the same hit. Okay. It's a very natural reflex to engage with a woman and be fully, you guys get what I'm saying, locked in. The launch sequence. I'm talking about the launch sequence. And that's one of the great pleasures of life. That launch sequence and the launching and the landing and the whole thing is great. But you could rob yourself of that if you pollute your mind and desensitize the mind. Okay, so I tell my kids, look, don't desensitize you. I tell them this, and I give these analogies to my kids. Okay, save the pleasure for later, because the pleasure later will be very intense and very healthy and very good, and you can be very happy. But if you dull that pleasure, and tomorrow you can have a lot of difficulties. Okay, so I think there's a happy medium. I don't think you have to be a hermit, not at all. So like every year in Islam, every year Muslims, we fast, and 1 month of the year, you're encouraged, if you're married, it's okay, but you're encouraged to avoid this, sexual gratification. And if you do, believe me, it regenerates your battery. So if you stop drinking coffee, I don't drink coffee the whole month of Ramadan. The first coffee back after that, I appreciate it so much. It's such a great joy. One of my favorite things I always tell people is like, having my coffee in the morning is a great joy. I wake up in the morning, I have peace and quiet, I have my coffee. My children are playing at a distance. I'm relaxing. I'm sitting with my wife, chilling. That's one of the great serene experiences. It's a great time. After a month of not having that, I wake up every morning. I'm like, I wish I could have a coffee. I wish I could have a coffee. Same thing with every bodily function. There has to be a time of fasting. There has to be a time of retraction. I know like not like secular communities, they have like no something November, like no drinking November, or no weed November, or no I don't know what November. Like they're gonna go a whole month without it. They figured it out that hey, I can't just smoke, drink, fornicate. I can't just pleasure myself all the time because eventually it gets dull. You become dull. I need to be thirsty first. I need to cultivate that thirst. That's one thing that's missing in capitalism. We forget we have to cultivate the thirst. We're full all the time bombarding our senses. That's why, like, yeah, I want to have capital. I want to have free market, but also I have the self-discipline. I have self-discipline. I understand how my body works and I understand how to keep it happy and healthy. This is very super important. Porn, my friend, in my opinion, is very unhealthy in that sense. Now, here's the other knock I have on porn. Very bad knock on porn, okay? It's highly abusive to women. Oh, yeah, you love porn, but not if it's your sister. Not if it's your daughter. Now you don't like it. That's somebody else's daughter. That's somebody else's sister, okay? So because you're helping create a market for that, these young, naive girls who are maybe hooked on drugs, who are maybe, showered with love by the wrong guy who wants to take advantage of her. There's 1,001 negative stories. Women who went into that field, then they come and they tell their horror stories. One, sexually transmitted disease. Guys, like it or not, it's not true that they're free of sexually transmitted disease. There's plenty. There's horrific cases of sexually transmitted disease. Okay, and there's some transmitted disease for women, especially, that turns to cancer later on. Women are far more at risk for these type of cancers. It could destroy their ability to have children in the future, etc., etc., etc. Socially speaking, women who did porn are shunned by society. Shunned. They're looked down upon. They're hated. They seem disgusted. Men too, but to a lesser degree. Okay, now I didn't make up these rules, guys. It's just what I've understood when I've looked into this topic. One of the top complaints is women feel ostracized by community. Women, specifically women. Men too, but not to the same degree. What else do they complain about? Physical pain. Like the way men like to watch sex is actually horrible for women. Women don't enjoy it. They're abused, they're treated, they're demeaned, is what I'm trying to say. They're demeaned, they're physically abused, they're demeaned, they're put down. Men want to see women grovel. They want to see women in pain. And these industries cater to those men's needs. Now, I totally hate all this stuff, guys. It's not what I think it's horrible. I think it's gross, guys. Honestly, I find it disgusting. Like, I think if you need that, something's wrong with you, man. Something's wrong with you. But yet, it's very popular. People want the most taboo thing, the most forbidden thing. They want the woman to be the most demeaned possible. They want her to be as powerless as possible. And there's a lot of data on this, guys. There's a lot of data. Like the thing men like the most, women hate the most. It's hilarious because where's the common ground? Where's the thing that men and women like? Well, when it comes to the porn industry, it's actually skewed. Like, I don't even want to say what it is, but the one thing that men like, women, that's the thing they hate the most. So it's just such a skewed reality. But it's abusive to women, heavily abusive to women. It's demeaning to women. Nobody wants that for their sister or daughter or wife or cousin or any female member of your family. Obviously not your wife, but believe it or not, some people are married to these people. So the girl, she has a job as a porn star, then she goes home to her husband. Believe me, this exists. Guys, of course you know this. You live in the West, you know this. But those of you listening from around the world, believe me, it exists. People are married in this industry. And to them, oh, that's just work. Okay. It's very demeaning to women. It's bad. It's very, very bad in my opinion. The way they portray women, it's just the sick male fantasy, man. I'm just saying, I don't know why men want to see, like this guy Archie Moore, goodness gracious, Archie Hammer. Why does he want to demean the women? What is it about demeaning them? Well, it makes him feel. He says in the, like documentaries, like because they outed him, they put him on blast, they put his text out there, and he's like, it makes me feel like a god. So because he wants to stroke his ego, he's going to demean another human being. Like, that's the type of guy, like, I really like to take him outside, step outside and just beat the hell out of him. Like, it's just such a gross way to feel good. You want to feel good? Well, you got to put somebody else really down. That's incredibly selfish. It's a sick and disturbing vice. And he was probably raised by somebody, because as you develop in the movie, in the show, the documentary, like you see, he's taught that as he's young. His father was like that. His grandfather was like that. They're all like narcissistic psychopaths. And they get off on treating women like a powerless animal, basically. You know, me, when I watch these things, I'm just fascinated. As human beings, how do they think like that? How do they get to be like that? You know, there's that. That's why I'm interested. The psychology behind it, because honestly speaking, it's just really disgusting. Like if that ever came near my circle, I would just, I don't even want to say what I would do, but let's just say, I don't know how to explain it, guys, in a nice way, but it wouldn't go well. And check out that documentary. It's pretty sick. And here's the thing. Here's the disgusting thing. Like, I was watching it, and then like they're showing you his text, and they scroll really fast when the girl's writing her text. So he's having a conversation with a girl. He's writing a text. She's writing a text. Then she like writes, and then they scroll up past her text, and they show you his text again and all the bad things he said. And I was like, wait a second. I'm gonna rewind. I rewind it back. And I pause it at the girl's text, and she's saying just as bad things. Like, she's meeting this guy. He's got followers. He's a famous actor, and he's talking about like a novel, which it's about rape. And then she's like, oh yeah, you'll like this novel. There's a lot of rape in it too. She's jumping on the bandwagon. Now in the documentary, she's giving an interview about like how she was abused by this guy. But they're like kind of like sweeping under the rug all the bad things she said, which I think is kind of like unfair, because she was in a relationship with him. He's writing these nasty things. She's playing along like, hey, I want to be tied up. I want to be beat up. I want to be slapped. She's like, if you read her text, she's also into it. And then when it happens, she didn't like her experience. She says, I said everything but no. Now, I think the guy's like crazy. I think he's, but was it consensual? Because later on they have a lawyer come out, and the lawyer says, look, being kinky is not illegal in the US. You're allowed to do it, but under consent. And then the whole question is, did this girl give consent? The girl's saying, I didn't say no. I wrote him intriguing texts. We talked about it, and then the guy wrapped a rope around my neck. I got scared. But she never said no. So I don't know. What does a judge do with this? The girl dates him afterwards. Well, how are you dating him afterwards? How are you still in a relationship with this guy if the guy violated you? All these questions that make my mind spin. Because for me, that should be your last interaction with the guy you should be calling the cops after. And you should have said a resounding no. You know, every human being, whether you're a man or woman, but obviously victims of sexual abuse is almost always women, unless we're talking about children. But in terms of adults, you know, I said last time in a podcast, it's always men abusing women when it's sexual abuse. And then somebody sent me a link. It's true. It's not always men abusing. Sometimes it's women abusing women. He corrected me. In a soccer league, there was a female coach abusing female athletes. I corrected myself. Okay, you know what? The victims are always women. In adulthood, the sexual victims are always women. So anyways, this was a sick documentary. And if you get into porn and you make it a regular habit of yours, you're going to desensitize yourself. You're going to need something more and more extreme. I know you think I'm out to lunch on this. I know all of you can be like, no, coach, it doesn't harm you in the least. I think that it's very possible that it does, and you just don't notice it because you're so immersed in it. And your launch sequence when is not as sensitive or as trigger happy as it could be, so to speak, in terms of biological health, is what I'm trying to say. And this is a very important element in being happy, satisfied, and healthy in that sense. Guys, thank you very, very much for tuning in. I hope you had a fun episode. Guys, thank you all for the super chats. You guys were more than generous, and that's not why I do this show, but it was very appreciated for all those guys who chipped in. Guys, please like, share, comment, and I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you.